We have waited a very long time to get week one underway. Yes, we may have already had a couple games. I, being a Chiefs fan, have already seen one game. There was an amazing game that happened Friday night in Sao Paulo. But let's get into week one of the 2024 season. Let's get it going. Wow. You know what? I'd love to be able to hit a redo button because that lacked any and every ounce of energy that I could possibly muster up. The most boring introduction ever. It's like, hey, welcome in, everybody. Have you been waiting for this one day for about 7 months? Me too. Well, let's get started. I would pretend you didn't hear that and pretend the excitement's going to be here. Jorge Edwards, Nate Markham, Fantasy and Frames, pregame football. No, the fantasy football kickoff show. Wow. Week one's off the rails already. But I promise you the information provided will not be. Jorge, break down for anybody that may not have seen the show over the past, really, this is the 5th year, I think.
Yeah.
Tell a bit about what they have in store.
Yeah. So first of all, great ASMR voice to kick off the show. That was totally the way to go about it. So don't feel too bad there. Got Preston in the chat, first of all. What's up, Preston? It's football time. Woo, woo. We got Malcolm. Welcome back, Malcolm. Familiar face here on the show. Mr. Scampers, what? He says, don't worry, Nate. Need those a.m. Love it. We got people waking up in all sorts of time zones.
Love it.
Check out the newly rebranded Fantasy Football Kickoff Show. And to answer Nate's question, look, we've been covering this for 5 years. We do this from 9 a.m. Eastern to noon or pretty close, a little bit after, maybe depending on how far we're getting into our analysis. We cover every single NFL game. We talk about all the fantasy relevant players that could come from these games. We got DFS information coming from Keith Fleming, our head of DFS content, talking about DraftKings plays for the week. As well as, most importantly, we're here to answer all of your questions, all your plays and fade questions, all your start and sit questions. So speaking of the devil, here is Mr. Keith Fleming joining us right now as soon as this camera boots up. But
did you say speaking of the devil? I've never really heard anybody saying the whole word speaking. Usually it's speak of the devil. Is it speaking of the devil or speak of the devil? I'm
pretty
sure it's speak of the devil. I've never heard anybody say speaking. It sounds very formal. But
I have a bigger issue with the devil part. Speaking, just for the record, but that's okay.
Fair enough.
How are you?
Doing great. What's going on, guys?
I'm lulling people into a seductive state so they just listen to what we're saying by being so monotone and as Mr. Scamper says, dulcet, which I love. I was told last night by the kids here that demure is a bad word now, that it's cringy or ick. I don't know what it really means. So it's a TikTok thing, I guess. And I'm going to stay away from it. So look at that. Learning stuff all day long.
There we go.
How are you?
It's the best time of the year where I have exactly almost 4 hours before all my hopes and dreams for this NFL season are ended by the Falcons actually playing football. So it's a good time to be alive.
You're in first place. Congratulations. Undefeated.
Atlanta. Awesome. I feel the same way. And in a few hours, Washington is going to get lit up by the Tampa Bay wide receiving core. So, I'm going to enjoy first place in the NFC East just for a little bit while I have it. And, giddy up, cheerio. Let's do this.
Yeah. So I said earlier, we've had 2 games. We've been treated to 2 really, really good football games to start the season off. Of course, Kansas City and Baltimore came down to a game of inches. Mr. Scampers had Isaiah Likely on the bench, who's playing me in our Fourth and Frames listener league. So thank you for that. Which
I have him on the bench everywhere.
who's gonna come on? No one's. You're gonna start him.
I was
It's
so high on Likely though that's why I'm so disappointed. As I've been saying for 5 months that I think he's the best tight end on their roster, arguably their best pass catcher. If you look at a lot of different metrics last year, and I thought they were going to use him, and I chickened out. Like that's basically what it was. I was like, well, his projection's so much lower, I better leave him on the bench. And how'd that work out for me? Not so good.
Hey, I started him in the Kings Classic, and you know why I started him in the Kings Classic this week, Keith?
Why's that?
You.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm glad that I helped others, just not myself.
Exactly.
That's what we're here for, is to give actionable advice that we wouldn't do ourselves because we're
Exactly.
chicken, but we want you to believe in us. So
It paid off.
yeah,
It paid
yeah.
off. So
Do
far.
as we say, not as we do is
Amen.
but
Every good parent.
exactly. I'm hoping that we, as the whatever you want to call this type of information, hopefully it's warranted and useful, resourceful, educated, whatever the scenario may be. At the end of the day, do what you want to do. I mean, we can only, you can,
Especially early in the year, right? Like that's what I
Right.
always tell people early in the year, take your shots because nobody really knows anything.
All we know is that, the likely scenario. Problem is most of the information provided is realistically kind of one of those things where if they played 100 games, this is what I would do 51% of the time. Well, they don't play 100 games, they play one. And that's the unfortunate thing. So now we're picking sample size. But speaking of one game, let's start with one game that is near and dear to your heart, Mr. Keith Fleming. The first game on the slate, the Pittsburgh Steelers at your Atlanta Falcons, who are 3.5-point favorites. 5-point totals 42, so they don't expect a barn burner of a game necessarily, but we don't know exactly. Well, when I went to bed, last I knew is that Russ was still a game time decision. Nothing has changed on that front, correct?
They're saying that he wants to play, is what I've read, but the team doctors are being cautious.
Yeah.
And I think he wants to play because he knows I give up that starting gig, I'm probably not getting it back.
And that is fair. I will say they did just name him captain. And by being named captain, I think that you give yourself a little more leash to work with because I don't think the team itself would do that and knowingly, if he was able to play, not play him. But hey, I don't know. Time will tell on that. So wait till game time, of course, to know there. Isaac Seumalo, the left guard, is out, and Roman Wilson, wide receiver. So those are about the only impactful, or if you want to call those impactful, injuries and notices to start the season or start the game. But let's jump right back into the Russ conversation. Let's say Russ is out. Justin Fields immediately he's in my QB1 ranking if Russ is out. Keith?
He is a QB1. I've been kind of pulling my hair out because I've been shocked to see he's not being drafted in every league. He's still not owned in every league. And I never can remember in fantasy where you could get a guy that we know for a fact is a top 5, top 10 QB week in and week out because of his rushing upside. It's not saying he's a great NFL quarterback. It's just saying from a fantasy perspective, he's a top 10 quarterback. QB9 last year. I think it was like QB4 or 5 the year before. And I mean, to me, you had to take him. Like I have him in a lot of leagues that I have really good QB1s because not only do I want to have him potentially for down the line, I don't want other people in the league to have him because I mean, it terrifies me. I want Russell to start so bad because the Falcons historically have always struggled with running quarterbacks. Fields had his best game ever as a pro versus my Atlanta Falcons. And, I think our pass rush is better. And with Russell a little gimpy, that would be a great situation. With Justin Fields, you can't really, pin your ears back and go after the QB because if you do, we know Fields will run for 200 yards. So I am very leery about that, but I think Fields should be. Fields will be, I think, at least probably QB 7 or 8 if I did a ranking right now of QBs if he plays. I mean, we've seen it. He scored 20 or more points in 13 of his last 28 starts as a QB in fantasy. I mean, he's the fantasy cheat code. And selfishly, for my Falcons, I hope he doesn't play, but also selfishly for my fantasy leagues, in some ways, I hope he does. Also for my DFS lineups, because I would be playing him. He is $5K, which is the cheapest QB option you can get on DraftKings. So he'll be in a lot of lineups.
Yep, nice and early. You don't have to mess around with it. Let's welcome in Jonathan Klonowski. Jonathan, great to have you back, my friend. How were things over in the UK?
Yeah, it's good to see you guys. Other than my laptop having a minor meltdown today, and obviously Jordan Love on Thursday giving me
I was going to say,
biggest of all panic attacks.
Do we need to have
Yeah.
a session here so where you can just vent and speak about your
please.
feelings?
Yeah, is that what we're doing? Yeah. But yeah, like I'm actually like in the middle of a move at the moment. So like what you can't see is just like loads of like boxes around me. So fantasy football is a nice sort of escape from reality.
Well, Jonathan, jumping right in, let's give you the first question that we have. And in the bowl of fish that Mr. Scampers is in, if he needs to replace Russ Wilson, would you replace him with the future RB1 in Minnesota, Ty Chandler at the New York Giants, Colby Parkinson at Detroit, or Blake Corum to double up with Kyron Williams, kick returner now? So, what are you thinking?
I never really like the idea of putting two running backs from the same team. Just feels as though it kind of limits your upside, even though I think Corum will get a decent amount of work. I'm not sure in week one whether that's actually really going to be the case. I'm probably slightly higher on Kyron Williams than most, I would say. But
except for
so
me.
I think for me, I'd probably go Ty Chandler there. Although actually in Scott Fishbowl, the tight end scoring, is that gonna maybe flip it towards Parkinson? But I feel as though Chandler will get a decent amount of work. Like Aaron Jones was always, there were always the calls to kind of free Aaron Jones, and he never quite got to that level when he was at his best. He's now what, 29-ish, something like that. He's at the latter stages of his career. My assumption would be that Ty Chandler does actually see more work this year than we expect, so that's probably where I'd lean. But
yeah,
not a nice question to start, but
no, it's not. I think you might have touched on one thing, Jorge. Maybe you'll agree. Is it maybe just the potential lack of just ultra the floor is lava approach with either Chandler or Blake Corum, that maybe Colby Parkinson is the safe, where with the tight end premium, just even 2 catches is equivalent to, an increased workload for Ty Chandler over what the worst case scenario could be.
I get it, tight end premium. That's what you're kind of chasing after in Scott Fishbowl, but I kind of like Ty Chandler here. Blake Corum, the special team thing, we haven't seen that, in the past 2 games turn into something that is super effective in terms of giving you fantasy points. But Ty Chandler, I agree with Jonathan. I think you're going to see right off the bat this 1-2 punch with Aaron Jones, especially against this Giants team that wasn't particularly, what we like to call stingy against the run last year. And then we talk about what they brought in on defense. They brought in edge rushers, great, but that interior line, even though Dexter Lawrence is still there, there's still some, wiggle room there in that regard.
Yeah, so I'm right there with you. I have a hefty amount of Ty Chandler on the season, so I'm hoping week 1 is a good showcase there. But like we said, so we've touched on Justin Fields. What we were talking about, Jonathan, when you joined us, is the potential of Russ being out, Justin Fields stepping in. Keith and I both are in agreement that we both like Justin Fields as a QB1 over many names. And here, we'll do a quick run through it. I believe Cassie put out a really good thread yesterday over at Fantasy over on Twitter. Check out her content, of course. Would you rather, and we'll just go one by one, see where the break point is, Justin Fields or Trevor Lawrence for you, Keith?
Fields.
Justin Fields or Tua for you, Jonathan?
Easy. I would probably still go Tua. I think that's going to be a great game. Loads of fantasy points there, so I think I'm still going Tua.
Jorge, I'll give this one to you. Jaden Daniels or Justin Fields?
Jaden Daniels.
Okay.
Yes, call it a homer pick, call it a whatever, but I'm
It's-
going Jaden Daniels in this one.
And that's like the quarterbacks 11, 12, 13 there. I have them right in that same mix. I know it's pretty easy to say before the games start, but that's enough about just Fields in the whatnot. We don't know situation. What we do know is that Jaylen Warren in the offseason, or well, leading up to the season, has been limited at times. He is going to be active, but the workload between those two is a question mark that I have going into the season. Like, and Jaylen Warren was actually one of my sits for week one or fades because I don't think the workload will be there entirely. And I think that Cordell Patterson could be a potential vulture as well. If we know Arthur Smith about anything, revenge coach narrative. Isn't that something that we we should all be worried about right now? But Jorge, what do you think? Are you concerned at all about Najee Harris with the Jaylen Warren and Cordell Patterson, or do you think it's going to be all systems go? Let's give Najee, 18 touches and run from there.
So our very own Keith Fleming here, all off season, has been preaching the gospel of Najee Harris and Arthur Smith. This is an Arthur Smith type of running back. The carries a full workload, can handle. Let's ignore Bijan and Algier last year. Let's go back to Tennessee when he was the offensive coordinator. It was the Derrick Henry show. He emphasized Derrick Henry in that offense, and this is Najee's time to shine. I do think there will be some incorporation of Jaylen Warren in the passing game, just because you are seeing, Roman Wilson is out for this game, the rookie. So you're really leaning on Pickens and Najee, and there's going to have to be some kind of release valve here out of the backfield for either Russell Wilson or Justin Fields, especially if Justin Fields is playing. Yes, he does have the rushing upside, but he also needs to pass the ball to somebody, and I think people are going to be coming after him just because of the lack of experience there so far during the offseason and training camp. So, yeah, give me Najee Harris this week.
Gotcha. Yeah, Malcolm has a question for you, Jorge, as far as when it comes to the Rams linebackers. We saw Ernest Jones get traded to the aforementioned Tennessee Titans, and waiting late to draft a linebacker. Of course, all the linebackers were picked. Omar Speights, or Spates, not quite sure how to pronounce it yet, but we'll learn. There was a lot of buzz towards that. He was kind of the preseason darling. There was questions about him being the starting linebacker now. If you had to choose between Omar and Christian Roseboom, which way you leaning?
I'm going neither. I'm going Troy Reader, who's technically ahead of Spates on the depth chart. We look at Roseboom, inconsistent. We look at Spates, unproven. What you do see out of Troy Reader is somebody who has been very consistent over the course of his career. Low missed tackle rate, if memory serves me correctly. So, just give me this guy who has the experience over the past few years in the NFL that has shown that he can be somewhat fantasy relevant in a really murky situation in LA with the Rams. To be honest with you, I would avoid all three and keep giving me options, in the chat as far as like who else is available. But if I had to pick a Rams linebacker, it'd be Reader.
Yeah, I wouldn't be all too thrilled, especially because I don't think that there was. I mean, don't get me wrong, there was a lot of talk about increased role coming out of Rams camp, but it didn't sound like there was a ton of conviction. It sounded like, yeah, no, this is what we're kind of thinking. Like I could see that being a linebacking core to avoid, and but that's me. So, Jorge, earlier you said the name George Pickens. George Pickens is most likely going to be shadowed by AJ Terrell, which to me is a little concerning, just because if you look at last year, AJ Terrell, he allowed less than 60% catch rate when targeted. There's no chance that we're going to bench George Pickens, even though some people against conventional wisdom say, hey, don't just go on draft value. Jonathan, are you even remotely concerned with George Pickens? And if you are, does that mean that Pat Freiermuth could really emerge as like maybe a top 5, 6, 8 tied in this week?
I wouldn't say that I'm concerned just because of the amount of volume that we should expect for George Pickens. I mean, like, if you told me at the end of the season he was on like 25 to 30% target share, like that, I think it's not out of the realm of possibility because of the lack of options outside of George Pickens. I do think that Frymouth is probably going to be almost certainly going to be the number 2 target there. So yeah, I think he's going to be a good sort of weekly target. And he was going late in drafts as well. He was a very good pick this year because I think the volume should be there. It is always just going to be the upside with the QBs that they've got. I think that's kind of just going to be the issue with the Steelers all year, really.
Yep, I agree with that. So, thank you for the opinion and the support with me being the Pat Frymouth owner in way too many leagues because I waited it tied in way too long in so many different leagues. But all right, Keith, we got to talk about your Atlanta Falcons. Let's just talk about the idea of what they're going to look like. You know, where do you think Kirk Cousins is? He a fantasy starter for you in one quarterback leagues this week, or are you still going to have to monitor that Achilles and see how he adapts?
This week, I'm a little concerned. I think the Steelers' defense is going to be really good. They had some injuries and stuff last year, and yet, I mean, all the Steelers do is they seem to be a top 15 defense year in, year out. And I mean, Watt coming back is what really concerns me because we are an offensive line that everybody's in love with. And I trust, obviously, like the way PFF grades and stuff like that more than my eyeballs. But I have some concerns because you got to remember, we weren't really just dropping back and throwing it the last 2 years. We had Marcus Mariota and Desmond Ridder. So it was a lot of running and a lot of quarterbacks on the move when throwing it, to where now we're in an offense, to your point, with a guy that's coming off an Achilles injury and in a scheme that they're going to sit in the pocket and throw, and they're going to throw a lot. There's a good chance the Falcons will go from the lowest amount of passes over expectation to the highest this year. I mean, that would not be out of the realm of possibilities in 1 year with the difference in the scheme and Cousins. And just this week concerns me. Moving forward, I love Atlanta's offense. I still am not 100% sold on the defense. I like the Judon move. I like the Simmons move, but it's been so long since we've had just a good defense, much less an elite one. I'm pumping the brakes until I actually see it in person.
Mm-hmm.
But I think this offense is going to score points because you just look like Kevin O'Connell and Minnesota has just, I don't think he gets the credit he does, that despite, like last year, Cousins played 8 games. They still led the league in passing yardage, despite, Joshua Dobbs and all these other guys starting there, not really, good QBs. Same exact system with Robinson. Morris also, worked on the offensive side of the ball in the same system. And I just think whether it's Cousins or Penix this year, this offense is going to feast. Like, it's going to be very good. I'm very excited to see, us take all these Lamborghinis that we've stacked up over the years and take them out for a ride instead of just keeping them in the garage with Pitts, London, and Bijan. And but I if you have a better option, I would wait though, because I just this is to me a really tough matchup. Atlanta's actually first 4 games are really difficult, and then the schedule gets really easy. So if you're somebody that we come out of the gate struggling, I would be trying to trade for some of these Falcons pieces because I think you'll get value on them, because I think the offense first few games might have some troubles, but it's more who they're playing than it is, what kind of offense they're going to be this season.
Yeah, one of the things they say to do is when you first get a Lamborghini is you're not supposed to drive it too crazy, the break-in period. So the alternative to that is maybe taking out the Honda or the Mazda in most scenarios, and that's Tyler Algier. So Jorge, you think the Falcons just want to take it a little bit easy and say, let's get Algier his touches, let's balance the workload, and if that's the case, it's not going to affect Bijan. You're never going to not start Bijan, but is Tyler Algier even a flex-worthy play?
No, I don't think so. I think we look back to the Rams coaching philosophy. Where the offensive coordinator for the Falcons is coming back from. Sean McVay, he emphasized one running back, and he rode that running back into the ground, whether it was Gurley. And now you saw last season when he did play with Kyron Williams. Not really a split committee here. I think take the narrative out of the picture, like, oh, this is a revenge game against Arthur Smith, we're going to show you how you should have used Bijan. Well, that doesn't mean anything. The track history of what the offensive play calling and the system that he's coming from is what matters, and that's why I think it's more so a Bijan game and less an Algier. Maybe as the season progresses, depending on workload situations, then maybe you might see Algier kind of sprinkled in here. But to start off week 1, I don't think you're going to see enough fantasy relevance for an Algier this week.
Let's talk about super deep. Okay.
I'm sorry. I just want to add that I think overall he's correct, but remember that I think Bijan and Pitts are going to, in a lot of ways, be wide receivers at times this season, because if you look at it, we really only have Darnell Mooney in London. There is no wide receiver depth on this Falcons team. And I think the more Pitts and Bijan are, involved in the passing game, the more likely Algier will be involved in the rushing game, because I don't think they're going to want to overdo Bijan. Like, I do think he's going to get at least 5-6 extra touches a game, but they've also kind of said publicly they don't want to, have him doing 30 touches a game, because that is a recipe no matter what team, or what running back it is. You're just asking for something to happen. And especially when you have a backup like Algier, who's been very effective for his career. The biggest thing with Algier that concerns me, or for Bijan owners, I think he's still going to get a lot of the red zone carries. If you look, he has been a very successful running back inside the 5-yard line. And that could be the one thing that kind of hurts this, narrative that Bijan's going to be, running back 1, running back 2, is if he's not getting those carries near the goal line, that's going to be an uphill battle for him, obviously.
He did get him last year. So granted, he wasn't the number 1 overall last year either, but he had, I believe it was 3 carries inside the 5 last year total for Bijan. So it's not like he has to work up to get back to that level. But you touched on one interesting thing that, Jonathan, I want your opinion on real fast, is that Drake London, who could be shadowed by Joey Porter Jr. from what I've seen. I'm still starting Drake London. That doesn't concern me. Yeah. I mean, it concerns me that the potential upside could be limited a little bit. Pitts' availability being up in the air, I think he's going to play, but I think that if you've gotten to this point where it's still murky, I don't know if that means they're going to let him rest a little bit, take some snaps off here and there. But I'm very intrigued with Darnell Mooney as a flex play this week. Jonathan, talk me off the bridge. Jump with me. Where are we at?
I'll tentatively step off with you. I'm not gonna fully jump, but I'm gonna encourage it, because I think, look, week 1, you're probably not going to be in a position where you need to start him, because it's not like you've got buys or injuries. So, but I think in terms of DFS, I'm guessing you're going really cheap. I believe that Pittsburgh are also starting a UDFA at nickel, like a rookie UDFA. So that will be something that they're going to try and target. So if he's in the slot, then yeah, I think it could be a good play. One of those where, if you've got a spare bench spot and Mooney, he's probably not there on waivers, but there's a good chance that he might be in shallower leagues. I think he's worth just stashing on the end of your bench if he is there.
Mm-hmm. We saw last year they talked a lot about the fact that he had such poor quarterback play and they didn't get him the ball and he was wide open at times. And I think I grabbed him pretty late in a lot of different leagues. I'm cautiously optimistic. There's a few names that I have on super deep bench, flex spots with 2 to 3 flex spots that I'm thinking about starting him. We'll see. But let's jump to Mr. Scamper's icky situation here. He's down big, facing Saquon, Jaden Reed, and AJ Brown.
Oh my God. Jesus. Welcome to fantasy football being back. God,
I was going to say, we wait months for it, and then this is the welcome that we get back.
I wonder how many points that is. Is that 70 points? I mean, Barkley had a
34, and probably 20. Oh. Yeah. So he's looking for upside, and let's see some of these upside options: Jaylen Warren, Tajay Spears, Rico Dowdle. Start one. Let's just go with consensus names. Jorge, I'm going to start with you.
Dowdle.
Keith?
Spears, the Bears were really bad versus pass catching backs last year. I think Spears is going to have a monster game receiving, and if he can actually break some runs in the run game as well, Tajay Spears is one of my favorite DK plays this week at 5,100.
Jonathan?
Yeah, like that. I was gonna go Warren, just which doesn't
Yeah.
help.
You can do that.
I think there's part of me that kind of feels like, yeah, I think we know that Najee is going to get a significant amount of work. So it's for the sort of upside play, it is probably Spears or Dowdle. Like Dowdle could, like, if he came out and was the RB1 and took like the vast majority of carries, that's potentially the biggest upside there.
Mm-hmm. Except for the
I think it's the
playing
biggest
the-
risk as well with Dowdle, because it could be Zeke that gets most of it for 2 yards a carry.
It's also Cleveland Browns, which means even if heavy workload could be
Yeah.
limited, just that's the only thing I was looking at was the matchup. And I like the Spears versus Chicago matchup better. I think if this is week 8, this situation that you're in right now, Scampers, could be the opposite of yucky, which would be yummy. I don't think I like. Yeah, we're gonna go with it. It's gonna be a yummy situation for you because they're gonna have 2 starters on that team, and Jalen Warren still being involved. So from yummy to even tastier, Jorge, who are some IDP morsels that you would like to? It's gonna be in your starting lineup this week.
So for me, it's going to be, I believe Troy Anderson won the battle for Green Dot for Atlanta, or excuse me, Nate Landman got the Green Dot for Atlanta, so he's going to be the primary play caller there. I am a Matt Judon truther. I've always been a Matt Judon truther. I don't care where he plays. If Atlanta, he's their best pass rusher. He's shown in New England he doesn't have to have a 1B to his 1A to impose his will in the backfield against quarterbacks applying pressure and getting sacks. He's definitely a start for me. Keeping with the Atlanta Falcons, Jesse Bates. How can you not start Jesse Bates after the great year he had last year coming over from Cincinnati? On the flip side, TJ Watt is a must.
Alex Highsmith?
I'm not as high on Alex Highsmith, but I could see if you're in like a LB3 situation or a flex situation, he could be somebody. I do love Patrick Queen. I don't think what you saw in Baltimore was just Roquan related. I think he does have, or at least has turned the corner, because in previous years he did not do so well for IDP purposes, but I think that's changed.
Selfishly, Jorge, can I ask you about Simmons? Like, I mean, what do you think about him just in general, and then also for this week? Because I've seen some people that love the signing, think he could be a real impact player. Other people think there's a reason outside of Russell and the salary cap that Denver let him go.
So according to Ourlads.com, they have Simmons playing most of the box safety snaps here, or at least they project him to play most of the strong safety or box safety snaps here. And that would kind of make sense in regards to helping out this kind of weak linebacking core that the Atlanta Falcons have. So I can see that. I do want to see what he does, though, in this system. I would still choose Bates over Simmons in this regard. That could very easily change next week after seeing his usage this week. Nate, I'm not going to say, though, for Landon I'm not going to say Landon Roberts.
Better not. He sucks.
I mean, he only finished.
Don't be shocked. I think Peyton Wilson will play more snaps than people are expecting. I'm guessing that I think he'll take over Landon Roberts. Did I mention he sucks? Yes. So talent will supersede everything.
I will say that there is somebody who I think people should pay attention to, and that's Caden Ellis, also linebacker for the Atlanta Falcons. Utilized in many different facets of the game, not just as a tackling run stopper, but utilized off the, from the inside as a blitzer, as a pass rusher, just multifaceted in coverage. Can do a lot of things. Sometimes that's a detriment, and sometimes you want that guy who can get you points in many facets of the game. So it's kind of interesting to see what his utilization will be this week as well.
Yeah, I want to watch with the Falcons and see if what's going to happen with Richard Grant. Is Richard Grant just not on the lineup? Do they play 3? Yeah, but I think he's impactful in running games. I think he can do good against the rush, and I think that they might start 3 safeties and have him up in the box a little bit more, so he's a little little better hitter than Justin Simmons. But that, that's what week one, in all reality, as much as we talk about all these flex plays and what we should do, I focus week one to see the trends that we kind of, what we expected to see and how they're going to play out a little bit more so than week 8's episode of this, when at that point we've got 7 weeks worth of, we know what's kind of going on. Let's do some. Let's have that conversation about one of the things that we want to see by going to the next game, which is the Arizona Cardinals at the Buffalo Bills. Bills are 6.5-point favorites, 47-point over under. We know Kyler Murray, James Conner, Marvin Harrison, Trey McBride. Those guys are all in our starting lineups, but
you missed one
for Arizona.
Yeah, Greg freaking Dortch. I am on the Dortch train, my friend.
Is a must play.
I think this week, yes, I do. In a Buffalo game that I expect them to be down, he's going to play 70% of the snaps, which has been his magic number for the last 2 years. In those 10 games, he's seen at least 8 targets, or averaging, 8 targets, 6 receptions, almost 15 points per game in PPR leagues.
Michael Wilson or Greg Dortch?
Dortch.
With conviction. Okay. Because I'm leaning the Michael Wilson side, but that's simply, a situation.
What defense does Buffalo typically run, man or zone?
Like as far as
like overall.
Oh, you're talking about see which matchups.
Because Wilson is
better.
he excels at one and is not so good at the other. And I believe he's really good versus zone and struggles with man. It might be the other way around. I have to double check that.
Gotcha. You mentioned defense though, and while Jorge does that, we'll talk about a defense that's going to be on this field, which I suspect, Jonathan, to be the worst in the league. That's the Arizona Cardinals defense. Sorry, Arizona. It is what it is. But does that mean there's enough volume? Because, we're talking about skill players in Buffalo that nobody really knows who's going to excel completely. We have an idea. We know Josh Allen's going to be fine. Who he's going to complement with in the backfield, a lot of people are thinking Ray Davis has a chance to emerge and take over either even some passing down work because he's a good pass catcher. But is he going to handle enough workload that in this matchup with Buffalo getting up early, could we see flex-worthy usage out of Ray Davis in a pinch?
If you're looking for a home run. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, John.
No. Because I was going to say, I don't think so yet. But again, it's kind of similar to Mooney, where if you can get him on the bench, like obviously he's a great insurance policy if you've got Cook. I think to me with Cook, it was a slight worry for me. He was great down the end of down the stretch last season, but it is a slight worry for me that kind of how much red zone work is he actually going to see, which is going to which is going to cap his upside. So I think Ray Davis is someone that if I can get him on my bench, amazing. But yeah, I wouldn't be looking to start him today.
Well, I think the biggest question, if we have to ask one glaring question about the Buffalo Bills, and I think we all have asked ourselves this time in and time out. Everybody gets to name which Buffalo wide receiver is going to lead the team in targets and or fantasy points, depending upon choose your destiny there. Jorge, of the wide receivers, not Dalton Kincaid, you can't clump him in to the to this conversation. Who is it for week one for you? Let me preface this real quick. Let me go back because are all 3 wide receivers being Keon Coleman, Curtis Samuel, even with the toe, and Khalil Shakir flex plays that you're considering? You're not considering any of them? Or is this answer going to dictate the lone wolf out of this pack that you would actually start?
So if I had if I had 2 or more flex spots, I would go Khalil Shakir out of all of them, just because we saw how efficient he was in the connection he had with Josh Allen down the stretch of the season last year. If I just had one flex spot, I think I can do better than Shakir. So it really comes down to the Dalton and Kincaid situation here. I'm not concerned they brought back Dawson Knox. I'm not concerned they extended him to that contract. I think Knox is going to be more of the blocker, and Kincaid's going to be that receiving option. So, but to answer your question, if I had to pick one wide receiver and I had multiple flex spots, it'd be Khalil Shakir.
Jonathan, how about you?
Yeah, I think I'm going the same. But I was looking at the rankings today in the like consensus rankings. They're all in like the 40s, and like they're all really close together.
Mhm.
So if you do have one of these guys that's on your bench, like the amount of upside that you have there, because we know that Buffalo are going to score points, so you're going to come off really, really well, I think, if you've drafted these guys, because there's a huge amount of upside.
Yeah, can I? Oh,
Uh-huh.
go ahead.
No,
I
no,
was just
no.
gonna say, I've been shocked all summer that a lot of people are down on Buffalo's offense. The 9 games with Joe Brady, Allen averaged 27 points per game in those. He rushed for 47 yards per game, 25 touchdowns in those, 14 passing, another 11 rushing. They are replacing 1,900 yards, 15 touchdowns, 251 targets. And I think all these guys are good. Like I do. Like the Curtis Samuel's one, honestly, that I've had bad experience with Samuel, so it's probably more of a personal thing from fantasy where I just don't trust him. But like I like Coleman. I think Coleman's going to take a little while. Samuel, again, I have concerns for. So for me, it's like Shakir and Kincaid early. I think they're going to feast. I mean, Shakir over his last 4 games last year, all must wins, by the way, for Buffalo. 22 targets, 20 receptions, scored almost 14 points per game. He was first in target premium, first in QBR per target, meaning Allen had the highest QBR in the league throwing to him of any QB wide receiver combo. And second, this is the big one, second in fantasy points per target among wide receivers. I think people are sleeping on Shakir. Like, he is the most likely to replace Diggs in the traditional standpoint, but we know Joe Brady is an offensive mind where he wants to get everybody involved. He wants to let everybody feast. And I think Buffalo is following the Kansas City blueprint from 2 years ago when they got rid of Tyreek, where they won't be quite as explosive, but they're going to be way more efficient.
Yeah. I think that, you know, from a DFS standpoint, are you even building multiple rosters, build multiple lineups, I guess, where you have Allen and then stacking with just one of each, or are you just avoiding that, or just?
Oh no, I think you can do both. I mean, Allen at 8,000, I really am trying to see as many ownership projections as I can, because he's like the fourth most expensive player on the slate in DK. But again, 27 points per game, and to your point, I mean, PFF, really smart guys. They didn't have any part of their defensive unit ranked 30th or better preseason. So, I mean, they're going to be real bad. And what I like about Allen is because of what Jonathan was talking about of these receivers and their rankings, the most expensive player is Kincaid, I think, at 5,700. You can get any of the receivers at 5,100 or lower. So that kind of negates the cost of playing Allen to where you're talking about maybe 26, 27% to stack Allen with any one of those guys. That's not bad for your QB, top pass catcher stack.
Yeah, I'm probably only stacking. I'm probably stacking with the Kincaid.
It's the safest play for sure, I think.
Yeah. I was just going to elaborate on something there, Keith, about, you're talking about the stats with Joe Brady. And I mean, obviously a lot of the conversation this offseason has been about like, oh, how good are the Bills actually going to be on offense? It's like, Stephon Diggs was essentially non-existent throughout like that whole period. So it's not, obviously it is a loss, but it's much less of a loss than I think people actually realize.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I think this is going to be one of those games that I think that we're going to get more of a shootout than some people anticipate, simply because the Arizona's defense is so bad, but their offense could be
really
so good. And Buffalo, I don't think Buffalo's defense is one that I'm too overly concerned with. And Jorge, speaking of defense, from an IDP
without
standpoint,
Milano, right? Too.
Yeah,
Which is a big deal for McBride. I mean, they've been
huge.
horrible versus tight ends over the middle without Milano in the lineup.
Yeah, and they run more zone than anything, in case whenever you're looking back and you're deciding between Wilson and Dortch, and save that for another conversation as far as who. But let's converse a little, Jorge, about some IDP options in Buffalo. And I got to tell you, I don't have many that I'm in love with. I think that I can make a case for Dorian Williams and maybe Gregory Rousseau if you like that. But any that I'm missing that you want to highlight?
Yeah, I do like Rousseau. I do like Bernard if I had to pick one linebacker, I think I would go Bernard just because I believe he is slated to wear the green dot, meaning being the primary play caller on the field, and we saw him have some fantasy success last year. Aside from that, this secondary is all brand new. Jordan Poyer's gone. Micah Hyde's gone. We're dealing with at this point.
I mean, DeMar Hamlin's starting for him.
No offense. Taylor Rapp, DeMar Hamlin. Like, I don't
Too
know.
soon.
Is it 2 years? I guess it is.
No.
No. I don't know where you're going with this. Arlets has Rapp being the starting strong safety, so helping out in potential run support situations. If anything, out of all the defensive backs in this secondary, if I'm playing in a cornerback specific league, I am playing Taron Johnson with confidence. The slot cornerback league, not so much in a general overall defensive back league, but in a cornerback specific league, Taron Johnson is the one who I have the most confidence in.
Yep, he's been one of my cornerback targets for a few years now. I really like. He's heavily targeted as well. But on the flip side, as Keith said, the defense itself might not be good at anything, which sometimes is a good thing for IDP. Pass rush is non-existent. There's no chance you're going to recognize or even consider any of the pass rushers. But at linebacker, you could potentially think Kazir White could be a name, or in the secondary, you've got Budda Baker and Jalen Thompson. Where do you stand on those names?
It's Budda Baker. Jalen Thompson kind of took a little, they were kind of neck and neck in terms of fantasy production, but I think Budda Baker is he's a top defensive. Like, where do I have? Let me pull him up in my rankings right now. I mean, it's not surprising he's going to be at the close to the top here. He's my DB4. So yeah, if I had to pick a linebacker, I think I'd go Mac Wilson. Just the hype out of him. I know. The hype though out of camp this year and all of the OTAs has been this is the guy. So much so that he potentially is the green dot wearer there for the Cardinals. So again, opportunity is what's key in IDP. I did not intend that to rhyme. But yes, can we get to Jeremiah's question because he's been waiting here for a little bit?
Absolutely.
So he has Jamar Chase. Who would you rather fill in at flex for him? First of all, if Jamar Chase is your flex, that is fucking unbelievable. That's great. He has the options of Jalen Warren, Najee, or Thielen in a full PPR.
I'm still gonna lean Najee. I think that I was worried about Jalen Warren's injury coming into week 1, limiting his snaps. Adam Thielen is, 70 at this point, my age almost. So I don't trust myself this morning to go out and play football. I can barely get through talking. Let's be honest, but I want to hear what you guys have to say if you agree or disagree.
I think overall I agree. I will say Thielen has a good bit of upside. He had 2 good games versus New Orleans last year, including late in the season when he had cratered for fantasy value. He had 5 for 74 in the second matchup. In the first one, 7 for 54 and a touchdown and 16 targets. So I think Harris is the safest play. I think if you need like an upside play where you need a home run, I think Thielen would be the guy I'd go with.
Yeah, we got David here joining us on the show. Good friend of Fantasy and Friends.
What's going on, fellas? Hey, that last question, I feel like Jamar Chase as your flex is a flex, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Pretty impressive. I need to know who his wide receiver 1 and 2 is.
Well, there's only about 4 people that I would have ahead of him. Like as far as if you're starting,
that probably is wide receiver 1 and 2.
Hey, that's do you guys do that? Not that this jumps off topic or anything, but
yes.
Dave, if you have in the wide receiver spots and say you start 2 of them in your flex, do you put your 2 best receivers in your wide receivers like you're actually building a depth chart, or do you put them in your flex so that people sneakily look at your wide receivers and go, "Oh, look at this garbage fucking master"?
I actually try and match them up with game times against my opponent.
Oh,
so if we got a 1
Very
o'clock
smart.
game.
Yeah.
So I like to see them go head to head against their wide receiver 1s and their wide receiver 2s. So that's how I usually do it. A
Yeah.
little bit weird, but that's
No,
me.
that
No, I like
makes
that a lot.
perfect
I
sense.
may start changing that. Yeah, that's cool.
No, I wasn't looking for a logical answer, Dave.
It's the only one you're going to get today.
Perfect. That's what we come for. You're right in time. You're from Tennessee. The Tennessee Titans are up now. You are from your accent is Southern Tennessee, correct?
It is, yeah. Southern Tennessee, Texas,
That's what we
Florida.
thought.
Who knows?
An amago. God damn, why can't I even that word? Doesn't matter.
What?
Let's go Tennessee. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying. My tongue's not working too good. But Tennessee Titans at the Chicago Bears. Chicago's a 3.5-point favorite. Point total 44.5. Jamal Adams is out for this game is really the only notable. Obviously, people were monitoring Keenan Allen's heel, but DeAndre Hopkins is supposed to play, but who knows exactly what his role will be. Guys, typically May 5th is National Mayo Day. If Will Levis comes out and absolutely kills it, will they change it to September 8th?
Wow. Sure.
Listening, Hellmans?
I don't even know where I'm supposed to go with that.
I don't know. Do you think
Yeah.
what do you think of Will Levis? You're in a super flex league. You comfortable starting Will Levis?
I mean, if he's my QB2, first of all, let me dispel a few things. Just because it's a super flex league does not mean you have to have a quarterback in your super flex spot. If you have Christian Kirk, or a good solid wide receiver too, you can put him in your super flex spot and you'll be okay. And in terms of whether I'd rather have a wide receiver 2 or high end wide receiver 3 or Will Levis, I mean, this is the week to start Will Levis. You don't want to trust in him later on down the stretch if he turns out to be a bust, right? They surrounded him with tons of talent, in the receiving game, whether they're receiving running backs like Tony Pollard. They got Calvin Ridley. They brought over the former offensive coordinator from the Cincinnati Bengals, so you know that offense is going to be predicated on the passing game, not so much the running game. So this is his team. It was built for him. This is his time. The old ways of the Titans offense, their time is up, and Will Levis's time is now. Thank you, John Cena, for that little phrasing right there. Question for you, though, Nate. I know we're talking about the Titans game right now, but do you mind if we get to the question on?
No, not at all.
So Buffalo Boy 50, start Jaden Daniels or Dak? David?
It's about what you need, right? Not necessarily what the thing I would say about that is Dak. He's solid. He's a 300-yard, probably 2-touchdown performer. If you need upside, maybe go Jaden Daniels. If you think your team is weak in certain points, but Dak is safe. And let's be honest, it's week 1. You're probably not going. It's not like you absolutely are in. I need to win this unless I don't make playoffs type of situation. So I'm probably leaning Dak. You know what you got there. Jaden Daniels for me, I'd have more regret starting Jaden Daniels and losing than the other way around. Dak's safe. Stay with safe for week 1.
Yep. I agree with that. I think that's a good way of looking at that. Just vague enough where we don't have to answer specifically, because it is league dependent and we don't know who you have, Buffalo Boy. Hopefully it's a winning team. Jonathan, I have a question for you that Mr. Scampers wants to know about Joe Burrow and the wide receiver murkiness. Murky definitely surmises that wide receiver room right now with Jamar Chase maybe having an illness. T. Higgins is doubtful. Do you drop Joe Burrow behind Brock Purdy, Cousins? Or how about this? Joe Burrow, or if Justin Fields starts, Fields or Joe Burrow?
That's really tough.
Yep.
Because I think I personally I wouldn't have him below Purdy just because of Purdy's matchup is not going to be nice. That's because
Right.
they're playing the Jets, aren't they?
Yes.
Cousins, I feel as though I could be swayed by, but I mean, like, this is one where if the news is coming out that Chase is playing, even if it's limited, I'm probably still going with Burrow just because I mean they're playing the Patriots, so I feel like Burrow should still be okay. It kind of goes back to what Dave was saying about the upside, where Justin Fields has immeasurably more upside than Burrow without Chase. So I could be very very tempted to go Fields there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that makes
You're
sense.
always at a risk with Fields this season, though, at a Russell Wilson or vice versa. One of them has a bad game, it's very easily switchable. So
Yeah.
that's my concern there. Whereas with Cousins or Purdy or Burrow, they'd have to have a terrible game for their backups to come in. I mean, I don't even know who their backups are, to be honest. Well, Cousins we know, but Purdy and who is the backup in
San Francisco?
San Francisco?
Ugh. I don't know. I wish
Couldn't even tell you.
I'll pull it up right now. Hold on.
I got it. Don't worry.
Oh, is it Josh Dobbs?
It is Brandon Allen and Josh Dobbs. So yeah, Josh. Well, I don't know. The depth chart says Brandon Allen second, but I believe it's Joshua Dobbs is probably most likely second. That's who. If I was San Francisco and something happened to Purdy, I would put Dobbs in. Gross.
I can't believe people are so down on Purdy. I have Purdy over Burrow in general this year. He scored 20 points or more in 6 of 9 starts at home last year, 18 or more, 7 of 9. I trust Purdy, and I actually think the Jets, who are pretty good against the run, is only going to make them throw even more. I like Purdy better out of those 3 guys just in general, but also this week, matchup to matchup.
Okay.
Like with what's going on in Cincinnati. I mean, obviously, if we had Higgins and Chase in that matchup, it'd be different, but they don't.
Right. And that's actually one of the things with Jamar Chase and his flex earlier. We were saying, and like to see who it is. And Jeremiah Dawson mentions that he moved to his flex earlier this week based on the news, which is exactly what you should do. When you're in the flex, that gives you much more, flexibility, if you will. So we did there. All right, Dave, I'm taking this to you. Would you rather have pollard greens or pickle spears? That's a Tony Pollard and Tajay Spears play on words.
I thought that was actually a type of food I've never tried.
Nope. Is that a Nate original or
that is an original?
That is amazing.
Thank you very much.
Some Missouri thing that I've not heard of, or what's going on?
Nope.
What do you guys
collard
eat
greens
there?
are a staple of the South. Thank you very much. And pickle spears are just pickles.
They're no
sorry
that you just threw the word spear on.
His last name is Spears, Tajay Spears, or Tony Pollard. How about that instead? I won't turn everything into a food decision for people.
We're not bringing back Skyline Chili into this.
Skyline sucks. It's worse than Landon Roberts.
I mean, you're going with Tony Pollard until further notice, right? I mean, Spears, I think he's had a couple of years in the league. He's had his time to shine or prove he can be the number one. I don't know if he's really done that, to be honest with you. Not enough for Tony Pollard to lose his number one starting job. Now, do I expect Spears on third downs? Probably. But you're going to get 15 touches out of Tony Pollard, and that's what I need week 1.
Gotcha. We have a week 1 question from Greg there, Jorge, that wants to know, with T. Higgins injured, who should he start week 1? Full point PPR. Keon Coleman, Zeke, Jerry Jeudy, Mike Williams. Dave, your answer is going to be Zeke, so I'll go to you, Jonathan. I know.
If I'm looking for upside, I could be very tempted by Keon Coleman here.
Okay. All right. Keith. Keon Coleman, Zeke, Jerry Jeudy, Mike Williams.
Because it's full PPR, I think I'd probably go give me Jeudy.
Jorge?
I can't ignore what Zeke did down the stretch last year for New England, being as a receiving running back there.
Boom. That's what I'm talking about. Someone give him some love, right? Anyone.
And if Daddle's
he needs to cuddle, man. Someone needs to give him a hug. He's been taking so much flack.
The Cleveland defense gave up, I think, the second fewest yards per carry to the running game last year. So if that's the case, I could definitely see the narrative that Zeke gets peppered with targets to get out of the backfield to help be an extension of this running game. So Keon Coleman, you don't know. Jerry Jeudy, Mike Williams, he's more of a home run, non-PPR person. So that leaves for me Zeke, which is something I'd never thought I'd say out of these 3 in a million years.
I didn't either. And there's 4. You love
4.
I don't hate Mike Williams. I don't love it, but I find myself more intrigued as him being the of all those names. Well, I mean, I guess they're all. I don't know. Jerry Jeudy, I guess, is the number 2. Probably will be the most targeted. Number 2 most targeted. Maybe Njoku is second. I don't know. I'm still going to say Tyler Conklin over Mike Williams, but let's move on. We don't need to get into a Tyler Conklin conversation about versus Mike Williams. It's pretty gross enough as it is after that Pollard Greens and Pickle Spears conversation. But DeAndre Hopkins on that same offense, we don't know what his usage is going to be. What are we doing with? I mean, that's sincerely, I guess, a flex play that people are going to have. I personally have sat him and taken him out of my lineup in some just because I don't know exactly what the type of role is. But Keith, let's say, I don't even have an example to give you, but what's your temperature on DeAndre Hopkins this week?
To be honest, like outside of Spears, I don't really want much with that offense. I'm rooting for Will Levis too, because I think that, he's got some real talent. He can really sling it, but man, his accuracy is a concern. We've seen with Josh Allen that, you can improve on that. That is no longer impossible. I used to always say a quarterback's not going to get more accurate. Allen proved me 100% wrong on that. But I will say that depending on your situation, volume alone, it's not necessarily a bad play if he's a full go, because we know Hopkins throughout his career, no matter what QB it is, no matter what team, he's going to see targets. And I actually do like the pairing if Levis can get it together, because now you have with him and Ridley, one receiver who dominates versus man, the other dominates versus zone. And that should hopefully not allow defenses to just kind of zone in or dictate what kind of defense they play. Say if one of the receivers gets hot.
Mm-hmm.
He's probably your flex, right? So I don't see the issue there. A guy who's probably going to get, 6 to 9 targets as your flex. Maybe he catches worst case, 4 of them for 60 yards, right? I can live with that. That's a decent baseline. Knowing that in the red zone, he loves to go for Hopkins. I'm good with it. I'm perfectly good with it.
Yeah, my only fear is re-aggravation, and he doesn't play. And that at his age and with the amount of limited workload that he's gotten leading up to the game, I think he should be okay. But, in some shallower leagues, I can understand 10-team leagues with one flex spot. There will be better options where you're looking at your wide receiver, 28 to 30 that could possibly supplant him. But definitely something for conversation. Let's converse about Joe Phelan.
I love how we do talk about people's age, like at his age, and
here
we are. Like if I get up too abruptly, I'm putting myself on IR for about 4 weeks at least.
I think that's Nate's point. It's like if we can't even get out of bed and these guys are, getting near our age and they're a professional football player, good Lord.
I got out of bed today. Check mark, number 1. Kind of winning right now. Let's make sure.
Moving forward, all right? Moving
forward, exactly.
Watch some David Goggins videos.
Sky's the limit.
Man. Step 2.
Step 2, start. Step 2, make a decision in a flex spot and a full point PPR. If you have Zamir White, Joshua Palmer, and Jackson Smith-Njigba. Let's start with you, Jonathan, of that.
Ooh, I think I'm going JSN there. I'm really high on JSN this year. As long as his ADOT isn't, I was looking at the ADOT between the 3 of them last year. JSN's was, I think it was around 6.5 compared to Lockett and Metcalf, who were about 12, 14. So I'm really interested in the Seahawks this year and that new offense. So give me JSN.
Yeah, so to piggyback off what you were just talking about, so Colby Conway put out a great article this past week over at fantasyandframes.com profiling JSN, and he was mentioning that in the preseason, his ADOT went into the double digits which is something that was atypical. I think Brian Grubb bringing that offensive philosophy from Washington to Seattle is definitely going to help elevate him. Zamir White wasn't really much of a pass catcher, more of a running back. And Joshua Palmer, I mean, come on, we know what he is. So it's really for the full PPR Zamir White, where I think Dylan Lobby can actually provide some fantasy value there, even though he's a rookie. But this week, give me Jackson Smith and Jigba.
Hell of an answer.
You're forgetting though, Jorge, that the pretty girls in the room have left in Los Angeles, right? Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. That's a big void to fill,
Mm-hmm.
Now it's, look, it's 1 a.m. in the club. You're looking around. What's going to happen? Who you taking home, right? Is it Palmer? I don't know. You got Palmer and Quinton Johnson there, right? There's got to be targets going somewhere. Josh Palmer has proved that he
you
can
left
perform.
off one.
You left off the guy that's going to be their number one wide receiver, FYI. So
Brandon Rice.
That's a rookie, but not the rookie. Yeah.
No, I do hear what you're saying. I love the late club.
Who do you really think the target's going to? You don't think that Palmer and Johnson are going to take the 1 and 2s?
No, I don't. I think Ladd's going to seriously be the number one target. I think that Palmer will be their down the field receiver. And the issue with this week is the Raiders can get a really good pass rush. I think the Chargers are going to run the ball a lot and a lot of short passes. Herbert's coming off, getting banged up this preseason. And I think it's Jackson Smith. The big thing is that Broncos have one elite defender on their entire team. It's Patrick Surtain. Pretty sure he's going to be on DK Metcalf almost this entire game. That means JSN is going to friggin' feast. JSN is one of my favorite DraftKings play this week. He's in almost every cash game lineup. He's only 4,900. I agree with you. I think Palmer's going to have a really good season. I just don't know if this is the matchup for him because I think he's going to be their stretch the field, down the field wide receiver.
Yeah, the only thing I wonder about the Chargers with that pass rush is how many 3 wide receiver sets are they going to run? And if it gets to the point where they are running, heavy schemes, 12 personnel, are they going to bring out 2 tight end sets and McConkey be a little bit like it doesn't answer this question. This question is designed around, does Josh Palmer have enough target share as far as in a full point PPR to upset? Because I think we all are in agreement. Zamir White is terrible, right? Yes, that's what we all think. Perfect. That is true. No one can hear you shake your head, Keith, which is good because the people that are listening don't need to hear you with that negative slander of how bad Zamir White will not be the starting running back for the Oakland Raiders by week 8.
We'll see.
I know that's the thing. That's the best part. No one's going to remember this.
Keep in mind with Herbie, and I'm a leader of the Justin Herbert with groupie club, right? But Justin Herbert is one of the few true pocket quarterbacks left right now. Tell me like 5 other legitimate. I sit in the pocket like Tom Brady and look at the air. He loves to throw the ball. Yeah, and you've got lost Austin Eckler, so the check down I don't think is coming as much. We don't know if J.K. Dobbins is going to be that guy. Gus Edwards is certainly not a pass catching back. So you're losing the check downs. It's going in the air. There's going to be a lot of targets. I don't care how many wide receivers they got. It's going to the air. So I'd rather take the risk of someone who's going to air it out than not.
And I think that what Seattle could and will do to some extent, maybe not. See, that's the thing is I think Seattle has weapons where they'll spread the ball around more and it might not be so isolated to JSN, but the run heavy approach.
For Patrick Surtain, I agree. But Patrick Surtain, if he's on DK Metcalf, that is going to mean that the ball's probably not going.
Absolutely. That's what I mean this week. I agree. I think I'm taking JSN for that reason. And because Tyler Lockett's been banged up all preseason. And there was chances, a week and a half ago that Tyler Lockett might not even play in week 1. I think that was just more posturing. But I think that leads everything to JSN. We'll talk about Seattle here in a little bit, and we'll talk more about JSN. But I'm
excited for that offense. Like I really like Grubb. I think
too.
that he did one of the best schemes of any coach in football last year. And if you look at Seattle with the offensive line injuries and then just the upgrade, in my opinion, offensive scheme, I think that Seattle players just across the board were all values. Geno, Metcalf, JSN, even Walker.
Oh, I think especially.
I
I hear what you're saying. No, and you're excited for that offense. I think I'm excited for the Chicago Bears offense to see a rookie. We get to see what Caleb Williams has in store. The best complement of weapons I think any rookie quarterback's ever had. Those weapons are, some are backfiring, like Keenan Allen's heel. Some might be shadowed by L'Jarius Sneed, which don't know if that means anything and everything. But anybody here ballsy enough in a one quarterback format to start Caleb? Jorge?
Yeah. Week 1, got nothing to lose. The playoffs are not on the line. Playoffs, championships not on the line. What? This is, I feel like, the safest week to go with, your homerisms, your bowl predictions, your bowl plays here, because we have nothing to go off of. This defense for the Tennessee Titans is like, whether we're talking about real defense or we're talking about IDP fantasy football defense, like avoid, not scared of one bit. And we talk about, and we've been talking about this all off season here at Fantasy and Frames, is no other rookie quarterback in recent memory has been given so much around him to start his NFL career. They're doing what they should have done with Justin Fields. They realized the mistake here. Obviously, Caleb Williams. I believe Caleb Williams is a better overall quarterback than Justin Fields. Don't get me wrong. But yes, give me Caleb Williams today against this bad defensive team of the Tennessee Titans, and yeah.
No, I don't know, man. If I'm going to a steakhouse, I'm not ordering chicken tenders. This is week 1.
Wow. First overall pick is chicken tenders, not even like, sirloin steak. We can't even get into the steak.
He's not sirloin steak. We don't know what we got. Let's be honest. I mean, there was a while ago where they thought Justin Fields was their godsend, and people were all excited about him.
I think that's just Bears fan, to be honest.
Week 1. Look, for example, Isaiah Likely. There was a lot of people I spoke to this week who had Travis Kelce or Mark Andrews, and they had Likely on the bench. And they're going, oh, I had him on the bench. I'm like, you can't take that risk. You can't take that risk week 1. I'm okay with it. I'm okay with playing Travis Kelce over Isaiah Likely because it's the logical decision. Now, next week, you make that same mistake again. All right, fair enough. But week 1, man. Week 1 is the week of let's let the dust settle and see who's who. I don't know if I'm just going balls to the wall week 1.
All right,
I don't want to start 0-1.
You have Joe Burrow, and it's determined that both Jamar Chase and T. Higgins are out. Are you starting Joe Burrow over Caleb Williams? Because that's a lot.
Yes.
I think that's a pairing that people could have had.
Yes, because once again, I mentioned the pocket quarterback. Joe Burrow is one of those guys. He can still air it out. We know we've got a quality quarterback who's going to throw the ball 35, 40 times. I'm good with that. I'm perfectly good with that. I understand, that's a lot of talent to lose on the field. They can still make it happen, though.
Okay. I like your faith and your belief. It is Happy Football Day, Mark. He, in the full point PPR, needs 2 of these. Good problem to have. Terry McLaurin, Deontay Johnson, Calvin Ridley. Jonathan, give me one of your guaranteeds.
Terry McLaurin.
Keith, you give me one.
That's who I would give, but I'll take Deontay Johnson. I think that he's just going to get peppered with targets. It's a PPR. That's the dream scenario. Is you just know he's going to get volume. His floor is probably at worst like 5-6 points.
Okay, I too am in agreement with Terry McLaurin, and I won't give a second. I'll let you guys hash it out. Jorge, I know you're Terry McLaurin. Deontay Johnson or Calvin Ridley?
Deontay Johnson.
Absolutely. Okay. Dave, are you bucking the trend and going Calvin Ridley over either of those two?
So Terry obviously is the consensus, easy pick, but give me Goldilocks throwing the ball to Calvin Ridley. I love it. It's his second year there. Yeah, I mean, Trevor Lawrence loves throwing to Ridley. I like the floor. I like the floor in Calvin Ridley. Let's be honest. What did Deontay Johnson score last year? 2
but it's
touchdowns?
Will Levis throwing on the ball now. So.
Oh, sorry, apologies. But still, Will Levis, I mean, I like him. I like him airing the ball out. Calvin Ridley has some speed. Deontay Johnson, let's be honest, he had a year and a half of pretty bad play. We're kind of remembering, the relationship that was way back when. This is not the same Deontay Johnson. He's lost a pep in his step. So, I don't know. Yeah. I can't trust the floor in Deontay Johnson.
And that's like, I actually, where I see where you're coming from, I kind of see it a little bit different in that it's like, man, I think Deontay Johnson's full point PPR floor is that he'll have, I think 8-9 targets from. I want to think in this, Dave Canales offense will be much improved. Bryce Young hopefully is improved, but it's like Bryce Young versus Will Levis. It's not exactly complete sway one way or the other. I could see floors and ceilings for both. I'm probably going to go Deontay. I will say this. I am a big fan of Calvin Ridley. I have been, and I can understand that you're not going to lose too bad there. But continue on here. Chicago. The one question that I think we should pay attention to and monitor is just what Roma Dunze's route participation is going to be. Obviously, in week 1, I don't know if I trust a full workload, but man, he doesn't need much to really excel. Anybody completely sold that week 1 is a Roma Dunze week where in your flex, in a shallow flex, we'll say he's starting? Conviction?
He's still the number 3.
I should never post questions where I let everybody talk at one time. I should isolate and say someone's name. It's okay.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
haven't but somebody's okay. There we go.
Yeah.
Still haven't said Jonathan Roma Dunze.
So yeah, I'm happy to take that risk because of the Keenan Allen injury. So if he is limited, I just think he's so talented, and we've already started to see that connection with Caleb Williams through the preseason, and the amount of videos that the Bears were putting on Twitter and on social media. I'm happy to start him because of that talent, and I think they're going to be pass heavy. So yeah, I'm happy to take that risk this week.
Gotcha. From the IDP front, Jorge, some obvious names. I think maybe obvious is that, and we'll talk some deeper leagues instead of super shallow, but Montez Sweat, TJ Edwards. Is Tremaine Edmonds a linebacker, like as an LB2, as LB3 will say that you want to start or that you almost have to start, or where's your?
Yeah, I'd say LB3. I think he's returning back to form from Buffalo, so yeah, I'll give him an LB3. But it's really, you said Montez Sweat is still questionable. Heading to tonight's matchup.
Keep in mind, guys, like you're talking about Keenan Allen, a guy who was out the last 6 games of the season, and still finished top 5 in receptions, top 10 in yards, top 10 in touchdowns and all that. The guy was absent and was still crushing people who was played the full season. Right now, am I expecting him to be this crazy elite wide receiver? No, but he's best case scenario your wide receiver too. I think there's safety, especially in a rookie quarterback. He's not going balls to the wall with another rookie, right? He's going with what he knows is safe, and that's Keenan Allen, who's going to get you 6-7 yards. Now, I know that the injury risk is potentially there, but the floor is safe, And I mean, we see it a lot with rookie quarterbacks. They go to their tight end, they go to their number 1 guys, like the real safe check down options. I can see Keenan Allen being that guy for him. Dunze, I don't know. I think he's going to get targeted by the DBs a lot. I think Allen's going to be the one who's going to be open in the middle of the field.
Well, it's going to be DJ Moore. DJ Moore is the only answer, and we're moving back to Tennessee defense. I plant my flag, go back to your Robbie Anderson love, and let me continue on with, real football players.
I love Robbie Anderson. Come on.
You absolutely loved Robbie Anderson, who was
more than
DJ Moore, which was wrong.
More than DJ Moore, yeah.
Tennessee Titans.
I love
Tennessee Titans. Let's talk about that, Jorge. Jeffrey Simmons,
if
you're defensive tackle heavy league or defensive tackle only league, Jeffrey Simmons is an absolute beast. Harold Landry, pass rusher. You have him as your defensive end on your team. How comfortable do you feel starting Harold Landry, who seems to, and not live up to what I think is the talent that he possesses?
So we have to remember last year he was coming off of an injury that took him out for the entire year prior. to that. So we go back to last year. We started to see him kind of have a little bit of a resurgence from week 13 on with, what's it, 3.5, 4.5, 5.5 sacks with a solid tackle floor of a minimum at 5 tackles, more solo to assist. So give me an edge rusher who gives me a good solo to assist ratio and is getting to the quarterback, and the pressures are increasing and is getting healthier. Another off season, now his first full healthy off season in a few years. I have him as my DL22. I'm pretty happy with Harold Landry, to be honest with you. And he's probably the only Titan that I'd recommend starting this week, because I understand. I don't know what to expect. That's the thing. Yeah. Kenneth Murray is supposed to be the main play caller. They've been singing his praises all year. Now they throw in a wrench here with Ernest Jones. We just don't know what to expect in week 1 out of him. So
that's fair. I think that's fair to say. And for people maybe that might have L'Jarius Sneed coming off of last year, remember, Sneed's going to be outside. When he was outside at corner, he was not nearly as effective as when he was in the slot in Spagnuolo's defense. I think he's still a great player. And I think he will be really viable and valuable for the Tennessee Titans. But this is where maybe someone like, Roger McCreary may be a better cornerback play in a cornerback option league, just because he's in that nickel and it's a little more conducive, but I still think playing time might be a concern. But let's move on to the next game, kind of go through some of these fast, because this one, it's New England at the Cincinnati Bengals. Bengals were -8. That line's been moving, unfortunately, because I have a bet that I made in Vegas this past week that included the Cincinnati Bengals covering this spread. That was prior to the Jamar Chase and T. Higgins news. So unfortunately, yuck. That T. Higgins news I talk about is that he's doubtful to play. Jamar Chase is battling an illness. I imagine Chase will play, but who knows? For me, New England, with all good conscience, Ramondre Stevenson is the only person that I would start. Hey, you can love a team and not still want to start Jalen Polk or Pop Douglas or.
I'm starting down. No one in New England. No one at all. Even Ramondre.
What about Hunter Henry?
No. It depends how deep your league is. I assume you're tight end 2, right? No way he's your tight end 1.
Right, but I'm saying, depending who your tight end 1 is, Bengals gave up the most receiving yards and receptions last year to tight ends.
Okay, so let's do that.
And they're going to be down. And they're going to be down. That's the one guy I would recommend.
Hunter Henry, got barbecue brisket throwing in the ball. I don't.
The second food analogy. Good job.
I don't.
All right, Jake Ferguson.
Here we go.
Against the Cleveland Browns, who were extremely stingy against tight end last year, or Hunter Henry.
Maybe that one's Henry, but not by much. It's close. I could see it the other way around, but it's not a easy slam dunk. Let's put it that way. There's no one in New England, like even Ramondre Stevenson, right? Is he talented? Of course, but you're relying on New England having the ball for a decent amount of possession and possibly having a lead for them just going north-south. Chances are they're airing the ball out because they're behind.
I actually think that's good for Stevenson, though. I think he's going to do his most damages in a pass-catching situation.
That's the only thing I worry about is Antonio Gibson taking some of those.
That's what I was going to say.
I think that's where Antonio. So that's
what Jorge, you were cutting out.
So Gibson is questionable for this matchup. So he's not. If he's not playing, more wheels up, narratives for Stevenson.
Okay, yeah, no, and I think that's the only play for New England. And on the Cincinnati side, the question that's going to have DFS implications, I know Keith will be which one of the receivers if both are out. But let's talk first, Jonathan, because I know where I want to stand in this conversation, and that's Chase Brown versus. I'm sorry, I get a little nauseous saying his name, so I'm going to work through this, breathe through my nose. Zach Moss. Okay, I did it. Okay, thanks. Sorry for that, everybody listening. But yeah, Chase Brown, Zach Moss.
Still waiting for your Zach Moss's trash video series, and whenever you get ready, Nate.
Oh, it's coming. Don't worry.
Did I miss something? What's going on?
You didn't miss anything. You've watched him play for years, and he's always been garbage. He had 3 good games in his career, and everybody wants to anoint him as the the next
And
coming.
Dave, you've seen the Zach Morris is trash videos, right? Like he told me Zach Moss is trash, and I'm like, well, then we need to make some Zach Moss is trash videos.
I'm waiting for that because I want to do a combo that and Zamir White so that it's all
how
one.
dare you?
How dare I? Calm down, easy. Let's
I have
get
to
back
agree
to
with you there, Nate.
Jonathan.
I'm not a Zach Moss fan. I think there's way too much hype.
Thank you, Dave. That's why
Yeah.
you're so smart, Jonathan. What are we What are we looking at the usage though? In week one, because this is a situation that I believe, and you tell me your opinion. I think this will be more Zach Moss usage in week one until they realize he sucks, and then it will convert to Chase Brown. But what say you?
Well, I think you know my opinion because I tried to trade for Chase Brown in our Dynasty League. And you
Yeah, correct.
And then we were both kind of like, we're both really high on Chase Brown this year. Look, there was loads of buzz around Brown, and I was quite surprised that when drafts came around, there was like such a difference in ADP between the two because I feel like with Brown there is so much more upside. We've kind of seen what Moss is like. Yeah, he was fairly good last year with the Colts. I agree with Chase Brown. I'm probably not starting him this week if I kind of have better options. I'd rather kind of see what that usage is. But I think given the pass catching ability there, the limited opportunities that he's had, he's looked good. So yeah, I'm really high on Brown this year.
Yeah, perfect. I love when we're in agreement. That is us. We don't have to be enemies
And
anymore.
then when I'm
Jonathan.
trying to trade for your players, then yeah.
And you're not trying. Yeah, get your dirty fingers off my players. All right, guys, you are each in the role of you are a Jamar Chase and or T Higgins manager. You have found out that both are not going to play. Both Yoshivas and Jermaine Burton are on the waiver wire. You can pick up one to start this week. Which one are you picking up, and are you comfortable? And are you starting, or are you picking the person up? Jorge, start with you.
I could do a lot better than either of those players as my flex right here. But if I had to pick one, it would be Yeshivas, who's coming into the slot here, taking over that Tyler Boyd role. So I think he has the most rapport with Burrow. So that's who I'm rolling with.
Keith?
I'm a Burton guy. So if I had to choose one, it would be Burton. I think he's going to be a really big addition when they have Higgins and Chase healthy and they get him fully up to speed being a rookie. I think those three receivers on the field are going to be really difficult. I do have concerns though with the Bengals this week. To be honest, I'm trying to avoid this game like the plague if I can, because I don't totally trust. I mean, nobody wants to talk about Burrow's hand deal. They're saying it's like a once in a million type situation. So I need to see him throw the ball and stuff, especially without Higgins and not 100% Chase, before I'm just like all in on this Bengals offense again.
Don't be surprised if the Patriots win this one, purely because there's disarray in Cincinnati. That's the only thing I would say. I'm obviously not saying that New England has a chance on winning a bunch of games this year, but this is a pretty dismantled Bengals team
it's
right
a mess,
now.
man. Yeah,
it's literally the game that's going to. Well, I'm going to win every other game in this parlay, and it's going to be that. And I'm going to have one more reason. The only thing shittier in this game, Skyline Chili. Speaking of diarrhea, Jorge, let's talk about some IDP options with the New England Patriots and Cincinnati Bengals. Patriots, I know you love Jelani Tavai. Outside of Tavai, Kyle Duggar.
Yep.
Any other names that you're loving?
Nope.
Is Juwan Bentley still in New England?
He's on the team. He's there.
He is a human being who exists on the New England Patriots. Yes.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, if you play four linebackers, Juwan Bentley is going to be starting for you at some, just out of necessity and out of potential snaps. Cincinnati side has a couple pass rushers in Sam Hubbard and Trey Hendrickson. Are both in your, against this New England Patriots team, Jacoby Brissett? Are you comfortable starting either, neither, both?
I'm more interested in starting Trey Hendrickson. Just sacks on sacks on sacks. Hubbard is my DL 3.
Yep.
Or, in a pinch, but we don't need to be in a pinch because it's week 1. So then you got Logan Wilson at linebacker. Jermaine Pratt, solid, LB2 upside with LB3 floor. It's crazy. You look at the defensive back position, specifically at safety. They had Jordan Battle. They had Dax Hill, rookies last year, come in, and it's like, nope, we're going to go back and get Von Bell and bring in Geno Stone. Von Bell playing box safety, so he's the one who I'm going after if I had to pick a defensive back here for the Cincinnati Bengals.
Nice. And JT pops in with Christian Gonzalez in a start cornerback league. I agree. Christian Gonzalez is an absolute beast, and I don't know it's impossible to predict any type of splash plays, but if there's someone on that defense that's capable of doing so, it is Christian Gonzalez. Ryan has a question for us. Good morning, Ryan. He is down big already. Unfortunately, that seems to be the trend this week going in, but thank you for trusting your comeback week with us. He has to pick one. This is when a friend of the show, Gator J, would normally yell at me and tell me, it says standard, you dumbass. Make sure to pay attention. At the very end, it is a standard league, not PPR, not half-point PPR, but pretty much who is most likely to score a touchdown or have big yardage totals. Taysom Hill, Brian Thomas Jr., Roma Dunze, Rico Dowdle, James Conner, Chase Brown, Terry McLaurin. Jonathan, start with you. You're picking one.
I think I'm probably, if it's standard, I'm probably going Connor.
Okay. Keith?
It's McLaurin. Jaden Daniels in college last year on passes that went 15-plus air yards, 24 touchdowns, 1 interception, 70% completion percentage. Terry McLaurin is an elite down-the-field receiver who has not had any even mediocre QBs throwing the ball down the field to him. I expect McLaurin to have a monster game, especially against a Tampa Bay defense that really struggled, gave up over 60 plays of 20-plus yards in the passing game last year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Very, very good, compelling point. Jorge?
Give me a Dunze. I like this in Chicago again. I like the matchup against the cornerbacks here. The Keenan Allen thing we've already discussed previously in the previous matchup. So give me Caleb Williams to show rookie to rookie action here.
Dave?
Give me McLaurin, man. McLaurin is the safe option. This is where you want to be locked in your bunker. There's a tornado coming in town. Just be safe. It's week 1. See what you have in Terry McLaurin. The guy's number 1. It's simple.
Do you ever have tornadoes in Australia?
We have cyclones. I think it goes the other way around, doesn't it?
Okay.
Or what's the
Like
hurricane?
Hurricanes.
Hurricanes.
Just like your toilets, the tornadoes also go the opposite direction?
I think
Wow.
it is. It actually does, because by the time it actually goes through the southern
That
hemisphere,
is mind-blowing right there.
Yeah.
Wow.
Dang. We learned
One of the
a lot
greatest
here.
Simpsons episodes ever.
Yes.
When Bart goes to Australia.
Exactly.
It goes back to the embassy and they force the toilet to flush the.
I remember that.
Yeah. And Ryan has one of the best dilemmas ever. I would say that I want to lean James Conner initially, but having so much of Terry McLaurin myself, I will go with Terry McLaurin as well and lead you to victory. So where did we leave off, Jorge? We got through Cincinnati's IDP options. Let's I think this one could be some IDP or an IDP offensive implications. Fantasy week 1, Houston 2.5-point favorites at Indianapolis Colts, a 48.5-point total. We know Colby Conway's going to be watching this game and tell me if he was here, I'll just answer for him. Who do you start? Everybody. Who do you sit? Nobody. And he would move on. But I think that's pretty fair. No one's sitting CJ Stroud. No one's going to sit Anthony Richardson. I don't believe so, at least. Maybe someone can tell me otherwise. Joe Mixon's a must start. Jonathan Taylor, Nico, Michael Pittman, Tank Dell, Stephon Diggs. I mean, is Zeno's name someone? I mean, Jorge, go ahead.
I don't like it. There's too many cooks in the kitchen. Sorry, keep going, Jorge.
So you go back to week 2, 56 yards on 12 targets, 8 receptions. Go to week 18, 44 yards on 6 targets, 5 receptions. That's Michael Pittman's stat line against the Houston Texans. I actually like, if I had to pick one, Adonai Mitchell here for the Indianapolis Colts. I think this guy is really going to put on the burners and be kind of the primary target, especially with Josh Downs potentially missing this game here for the Colts.
I
So
think they already ruled him out. I'm pretty sure.
so then,
Yeah,
boom,
Downs is out. Oh yeah, forgot to mention that. Out in this game is Joshua Downs.
yeah, give me a done I meant
Hey,
here.
when you read off those stats, that's not compelling enough to me. One, because it's not Anthony Richardson. Not that that's going to make or break the
Week 2 was
week 2 was, and he had how many targets?
12
12.
for 56 yards.
12 targets. You said 8 catches for 56
For
yards.
56 points.
If you could guarantee me that he's going to get me 12 targets, 8 for 56 against a Houston secondary that I don't think it's their weak spot, if anything. And without Christian Harris over the middle, there's just, we're going to get there because I was going to say the next thing was with Josh Downs ruled out, does AD Mitchell absolutely, jump into everyone's flex spot? You answered that for us. Well, at least for yourself, and I'm going to let you speak for everybody so that we can continue to move too much and maybe be able to answer some of the questions. But yes, I think that this game is full of implications that people want. Outside of AD Mitchell, is there any name that someone really wants to say, hey, get this person into your lineup?
Jelani, that's right. He's out for the season. Sorry, Drew, Scott, if you're watching.
I was just going to say for DFS, Nico Collins 7K needs to be in your lineups. Third in yards per route run versus cover 3. Colts run the most cover 3 in the NFL at 55%. CJ Stroud, by the way, as a rookie, was first in QBR versus cover 3. And in those 2 games last year, Collins won, obviously with everybody healthy week 2, the other with nobody there week 18. He had 360 yards and 2 touchdowns, catching 16 of 18 targets. So Nico Collins is going to cook. He's going to be the deep target in that offense, and that is how Stroud just burns cover 3, at least so far in his career.
Gotcha. Jorge, on the IDP side of things, we know there's been some conversation early on about Will Anderson versus Danielle Hunter and who do you draft first. I think if you take either, you're in a good spot, but you are starting both, correct?
Oh, absolutely.
What about Azeez Al-Shaair?
Oh my God! Especially with Christian Harris, not even.
Yeah, now we're talking.
Yeah, give me Azeez. He has been a preseason darling for a lot of people. JT, if he's still listening, is definitely a high on him this year, especially this week. On the flip side, I have a lot of faith in Reaaaady Latu. I thought he was one of the best edge rushers coming out of the draft. He was the first defensive lineman, I believe, drafted in the NFL draft this past April. There was a concern of like you have Kwity Paye on one side, you have Samson Ebukam, then you got the Reaaady Latu. It's going to be rotation. Latu's full upside potential is not going to be on display. With an Samson Ebukam has a torn ACL. He's out for the year. I don't care who the fourth defensive lineman is. I think Reaaady Latu is going to have some upside. I'm not saying start him this week, but somebody to bookmark in your fantasy app there. But you still have DeForest Buckner, who even as a defensive tackle in defensive line leagues still provides plenty of tackle upside. At the linebacking situation, we saw Zaire Franklin start the season hot. We saw him fade as the season went on, but we saw EJ Speed kind of take up, the mantle here as far as being that Shaquille Leonard esque type of player, both blitzing the quarterback as well as making plays all over the field and tackling. So give me both of those guys, but I'm actually really high on Speed in case you didn't notice. I also like Julian Blackman at strong safety. He in previous seasons, he was the free safety. Last year, they finally moved him to the strong, aka box safety, and he just flourished. And then if I was in a quarterback-specific league, Kenny Moore in the second.
There you go. And I'm a Kwity Paye fan, so I'm always going to lean Kwity Paye as far as wanting to start him just from the pure pass rush. Hey, so does JT. Well, that's clearly the best answer then, because we both said it. Jorge, all your other information is irrelevant. Forget what you just said. But let's answer Tootsie Pop's question. She has an IDP question, which is start 2 out of the following: Alex Highsmith, Jack Campbell, Trayvon Walker, Brian Burns. Brian Burns is one for me for sure. And then I'll probably, I don't know about, I wish I knew the linebacking just guaranteed snap counts and rolling Detroit, even though I have to believe there's no reason to think that Jack Campbell's not going to be the leading tackler for that defense and be on the field at all times. I'll say Jack Campbell myself. What say
right
you?
there, Burns
Look at that.
again. Exactly. Yeah.
Perfect. All right. Well, let's move on. Let's go south with Jackson. The Battle of Miami, Battle of Florida. Ooh, this seems like a good game. Jacksonville Jaguars at the Miami Dolphins. Miami Dolphins with 3.5-point favorites, a 49-point total. I'm guessing, Keith, this is the DFS stack of stat games if you really want to get part of high-scoring action. Malik Washington is out. Dave's love child of Robbie Chosen Anderson has been promoted from the practice squad because as they wait for OBJ. But, Jonathan, let's start with you, buddy. Miami's defense. Without Jalen Phillips, or at least on a snap count. Jorge hates that term, but it is what it is. Or pitch count, you hate. Sorry, snap count's fair.
Pitch count. Yeah, snap count. Yeah.
So Jalen Phillips potentially on a pitch count, and still really the Dolphins reeling from the loss of Christian Wilkins. The Jags, their offense could do some damage against this Miami defense. How many of them? So Travis Etienne, yes, right? Evan Ingram, yes.
Yes.
Christian Kirk, yes. Here's the big one. Brian Thomas Jr. How high and comfort level are we starting with Brian Thomas Jr.? Because I think all systems go, but I'm willing to listen to counter arguments.
When you say all systems go, how big of a wide receiver are you talking? You talking about like wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3?
Flex.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah. I go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, I mean, the amount of buzz that we've seen over the last few weeks, don't think that's just hype for the sake of it. Like I think he provides such a new option for them in terms of his size and speed. It's kind of just the Jags have been really kind of lacking that over the last couple of years. So I'm more than comfortable kind of to put him in my flex this week. There's always going to be risk with rookies, but he was drafted that high for a reason. I'm more than happy to do so. I think for this week, I'm more than happy to put Christian Kirk in because I think this is second highest over under this week, behind I think the Rams-Lions game. But I do worry a little bit for Christian Kirk this week, and for Christian Kirk over the whole year in terms of how much work and upside will Brian Thomas take from Christian Kirk. I think, Kirk, I'm kind of maybe a little bit more worried about over the whole season, but this week, absolutely no worries.
When you say worried, how many targets would he need to get for you not to be worried?
You see, I think he will get targets. It's more just the touchdown upside and yardage upside.
Well, I mean, they didn't do that anyway. Like him and Ingram, but that was the one thing that I'm excited about Ridley and Zay Jones being gone was they had 65% of the red zone targets last year. So I look at it, even if Thomas is getting, say he gets a bulk of that, right? And he ends up being their most targeted guy in the red zone. I would still think Ingram and Kirk's red zone numbers are actually going to slightly go up just because they're such a big piece of the pie. And I think Jacksonville's offense is going to be much better this year. I understand what you're saying. Because for me, I think Thomas ends up being behind Ingram, the most viable, week to week guy in this offense of the pass catchers. But I think that Lawrence is good enough to support 3 guys, on a week to week basis in the passing game. And I mean, if we look at it, last year was a mess. His first year was a mess. If you look at year 2, where there wasn't so many injuries and just all this stuff going on, he was one of the best QBs in the league. And he flung it a lot.
Mm-hmm. Let's get to a quick question. I feel like I missed of Preston's earlier, Jorge. And he says, with Warren coming off his injury and Josh Downs out this week, who are you in opinion is the better flex option, A.D. Mitchell or Warren? And I lean A.D. Mitchell in that situation. And I think we all are in agreement. For those listening at home or abroad, there's numerous head nods right now. And so that implies we're all in agreement instead of everybody talking over each other. But all at once, we don't have to speak. The Miami Dolphins of Tua, Tyreek, Waddle, Achane, Raheem Mostert.
So don't forget him.
Oh, I won't. I think that's pretty much everybody in that offense that should start. I don't trust, I don't trust a tight end in that scheme. I don't trust a wide receiver 3 to be.
Unless Arthur Smith's calling plays, right?
Oh, well, if that's the case, then who's their third running back that I could potentially throw into the
I'm
mix?
talking about Janu Smith. We know how much he loves Janu Smith.
I know. I'm looking for
Jalen,
in one of the potential. That's I'm not on the right team. Doesn't matter. But yeah, so Miami is all systems go. Jorge, quick on the fly. Jacksonville pass rusher. Josh Allen. Josh is it?
Allen.
There you go. Which you don't hear that too much. They throw the new last name in front of the previous last name. I don't, and I'm happy for him somehow.
Did he change his name literally just so it wouldn't be the two Josh Allens? I mean, can anybody confirm that? Or
I don't know if that's the reason, but that is what the name change was. So
what? Change his name?
Yeah.
Yep. Josh.
Like legally, right? Didn't he legally change it?
Yeah.
Would he change it to again, sorry?
Josh Hines Allen.
Oh,
And on September 20th, by the way, he's also going to host a jersey swap for fans who bought his jersey before he legally changed his name.
Man.
Yep. And that's
they have
honor.
to, though. You know that, right? Like, in order to change your number or your name on the back of the jersey, whatever jerseys are in circulation, the NFL makes that player buy them. The only reason I know is because Kyle Pitts and Kirk Cousins, like that whole situation.
Yep. And I've heard that before. But yeah, that he announced he changed the name to honor his maternal side of the family. And I also believe that, yes, probably having two Josh Allens in the leagues to stand out, especially considering the season that he had last year, he deserves to be, I hate saying it. I'm going to still call him Josh Allen, but out of respect, he doesn't have to be, no, not that Josh Allen. And that's not fair because that's what we were saying last year on the IDP circuit about the other Josh Allen, because this one blew up and you're starting to begin this week.
I missed the hype when Josh Allen sacked Josh Allen and they brought up the stat line. Say it's the first time in the league someone's been sacked by a person with their own name.
That is.
I love NFL stats. They pick their own random crap.
That's a good one though. I mean, that's the one that I think everybody was kind of waiting for as far as IDP, man.
So Olukon, Devin Lloyd, no more Rayshon Jenkins. He's up in Seattle. Darnell Savage comes over from Green Bay. Yuck. Don't like it. So on the flip side for Miami, Jalen Phillips, limited snaps. I'm sorry, coming off an Achilles tear. I need to see what he does because that is a lot of pressure to put on your foot as an edge rusher coming off of that tear. On the flip side, Chop Robinson should get plenty of work, the rookie out of Penn State, but not enough to validate starting him for IDP. David Long is wearing the green dot, but if I had to pick a linebacker, it'd be Jordan Brooks. And then Javon Holland as your defensive back. Those would be the Dolphins for IDP.
That's that game there. Let's go to almost as exciting a game. Carolina Panthers at New Orleans. New Orleans -4, 41.5. But before we do that, let's say goodbye to Keith Fleming. Keith, thank you so much for joining us. If you don't follow Keith Fleming's advice for DFS, you're stupid and you probably like Skyline Chili. So, or your name's Erica with a C. Get the hell out of here. But Keith, thank you, buddy. Get to work. Can't wait to talk with you.
And again, anybody who follows me or follows Spanish Spring, you can hit me up on Twitter with any DFS question. Seriously, at any time, either in one of my posts, DMs, etc. I try to answer all of them. So I love sharing this stuff. Appreciate you guys. You're doing the Lord's work. And Nate, just let me know what your Venmo is, and I'll send you whatever I was going to enter in lineups with Zamir White. So just let me know. Okay,
got it. Absolutely.
Right,
bye. All right.
I think we've lost any fans named Erica, by the way. I just saw our viewership.
No, Erica is okay.
All the Ericas with the C were way gone a couple months ago, so don't sweat that. I want to know what's up with this question in the comments where it says, did Tyreek Hill just get arrested. Now, knowing Tyreek Hill and his, I don't know. He's detained by police today entering the stadium for a driving violation per his agent, Drew Rosenhaus.
He's not getting arrested for driving violation.
He just drove past the scene with police surrounding area to keep cars moving. Appears to be Tyreek Hill being talking to his agent, Drew Rosenhaus.
Ooh,
Yes.
he's getting handcuffed. Wow.
Detained.
I can't find anything.
Schefter has just tweeted that he is going to play. Well, according to Drew Rosenhaus, who's his agent. So,
yeah. So he, yeah. Thank you for that, KJ, for popping that on there. My heart is, my stomach's in my throat, and I would die if Tyreek Hill didn't play, as far as a lot of fantasy implications. But guys, I don't want to keep anybody waiting. Carolina, New Orleans 4-point favorite, 41.5 point. Unfortunately, you Tommy Tremble and Ian Thomas owners, you will not have them for the week. But if you have Chuba Hubbard, rejoice, because he is a flex option against his New Orleans defense. Correct, Jorge?
Yes, sir.
Dave, we know you hate Deontay Johnson, but he is a potential PPR machine. Or quite possibly, where does Marshawn Lattimore fit into this equation? Because that matchup has historically been a tough one for anybody facing against Lattimore. He's a little longer in the tooth as we go along. I won't make an ageist joke because he's not that old. But the pass catching weapons in Carolina, I would say, aren't slim per se, but outside of Deontay Johnson and Adam Thielen, you have Jonathan Mingo. I don't like any other options from Carolina, unless I'm wrong. What do you guys think?
My bold take is that Bryce Young, it's his last year in as the starting quarterback.
Oh,
I don't think he's cut out for the NFL. I don't. He's had a full season to prove it. I didn't see anything last year which showed me he has potential of being elite. I think he's there because he's the number one pick from last year. Simple as that. There's a lot of backup quarterbacks I would have. I mean, I could probably name 5 guys that I would rather have over Bryce Young, who aren't starting in the league.
Oh, okay.
Jesus, just bury him already.
No, but I mean, you tell me, are you impressed by Bryce Young? Is there anything he's done that you've gone, oh man, this guy's elite?
Peyton Manning threw
accurate
his rookie year. Would you have given up a Peyton Manning after his rookie year?
He still. What was his yards that year, though?
I don't know. 18 interceptions. I don't know.
Josh Allen threw a ton of interceptions his first year.
He did. He got better. So
go
ahead, Jonathan.
No, I was just going to say, I feel like it's really hard to actually properly work out how good Bryce Young is after last year, just because nobody was open. And that's why they got Deontay Johnson. It's because he might lack a bit of speed and whatever, but he gets open. He's one of the best receivers at getting open. So I think he's going to be absolutely peppered with targets. And we will actually be able to make a fuller evaluation of Bryce Young, because I think Canales has done a great job with Baker Mayfield, with Geno Smith. So I'd feel better about being able to evaluate Bryce Young. I kind of give him a little bit of a pass for last year of how chaotic everything was, and they've improved the offensive line as well. So
okay, well, good. So
it still might not be good, but we can at least just sort of evaluate it properly this year.
Exactly. So Scampers did put that underdog is locked all Dolphins props, but as we mentioned, Drew Rosenhaus did say that he just left Tyreek and he is getting ready to play. I would have to assume there's not going to be any disciplinary action from the team for a driving violation necessarily quite yet. But let's go to here. Scampers has a question. Since he's been providing data and input, we might as well do the following. Half-point PPR. Jordan Addison at the Giants, or the Gus Bus going against the Vegas Raiders. Me, I'm going to start Gus Edwards. Just, I don't love it, but I love the idea of this rushing attack that they're going to have in Los Angeles. I think that is a little more comfortable than the idea of Sam Darnold trying to support not only Justin Jefferson, but Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison.
I agree 100%. Real quickly, Tyler Heil and Chad Doe. Damn, those are some handsome gents.
Oh.
And Dave. Ayuk snap
Oh,
count.
Because I didn't shave. I'll pretty myself up next time for you, Tyler.
Send this a question. Here,
Okay, never Zach Moss, Tyler. You know better than that. That's dumb. I still think I don't think that Ayuk's going to be on as much of a snap count as I think. I don't think him getting acclimated back with the team is going to be too concerning. And there wasn't an injury that was really limiting him, was there?
Who?
Brandon Ayuk.
No.
Okay. I would lean Ayuk then for out of those three.
Same.
Agreed.
Dave?
Yep.
Yeah, I do worry about the snap count a little bit. Not enough for me to take him out of the lineup. You got to. I mean, I keep preaching it. You got to play safe week one, but Ayuk's still Brandon Ayuk, number one receiver on that team.
About Bryce Young, real quickly. Yeah, QB with bad weapons and awful offensive line and bad play callers didn't succeed. Who could have seen that coming?
That is a tricky one, and we'll see. And I be the first to admit I was never sold on Bryce Young going in. I had my reservations. I still have my reservations, but I don't want to completely just say he's done for good. I just don't know how much of a leash. Like, I think it's going to be a full year. I don't think he actually loses his job this year unless there's injury or something. But still,
but a good QB can make good players. I mean, let's be honest. Tank Dell last year, he's someone that's pretty much on most fantasy teams right now. Nico Collins is now deemed a pretty elite wide receiver. I think a lot of that is CJ Stroud.
But
right?
Dave,
I think it's a lot of it is them as well. Like Nico Collins had really good numbers behind, like underlying numbers behind his play, but hadn't really had any good QBs. No one in that receiver room. I mean, like Adam Thielen was fine, but also like very much at the back end of his career. Other than that, it was Jonathan Mingo, who didn't even get 500 yards.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So I think so much more of it is on.
You're adding
the system around them rather than and the offensive line was just awful as well.
Stroud made Noah Brown look good.
Mm-hmm.
There was he made it at the stage where people were like, should I start Noah Brown? No one heard of Noah Brown before the season started, and then people were like, oh, this guy's pretty good because of CJ Stroud. Tell me one person.
But Noah Brown had other weapons on the field that made Noah Brown viable because other people were getting attention. Adding pickles to chicken shit doesn't make it chicken salad. And that's where Bryce Young is, unfortunately, with that team. It's a whole bunch of chicken shit, and he's not an overwhelmingly, he needs more pieces around him than just himself, and he has that. Let's go to New Orleans because we want to make sure to get through this for all the New Orleans fans out there, and myself included, because Alvin Kamara is going to be at RB1 this week. That goes without saying. Chris Olave is in your lineup for sure. I love Chris Olave. I know many people, he's a little more polarizing to some because the whole Derek Carr situation, but there's other pieces to that offense, and that's Rashid Shaheed, who's gotten a lot of talk, Taysom Hill, who still is involved, and let's be honest, that Dennis Allen ran system loves Taysom Hill for some reason, but Dennis Allen,
I don't know why.
Taysom
Hill's he's like the abusive stepfather that your mom refuses to leave.
Yes,
he's just there,
always there.
He's just stealing touches away from viable options.
Yep, you go in, you get to go for your Mountain Dew, and the 12-pack of Mountain Dew is already gone. He's got 2 of them left over on his nightstand next to his pack of Marlboro Reds. I'm assuming he smokes Marlboro Reds, and your mom's crying from last night still from being yelled at because she didn't make the chicken salad too good because she didn't have pickles or collard greens. Good morning, Carrie. Can I have a coffee? Just kidding. Just joking. Let's talk about the IDP options in this game. Let's start with Carolina. There's limited pieces. They lost Brian Burns. You go ahead because
did I miss that? What happened with Brian Burns? Did he get traded or something?
To the Giants?
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
So give me Derek Brown as a defensive tackle in defensive tackle leagues. Give me Josie Jewell over Shaq Thompson, as Jewell is the new linebacker from the Denver Broncos who's slated to wear the green dot. Edge rusher Jadeveon Clowney, no. I mean, I say no, but like every stop he's had along the way in his comeback tour, he's been good, but I'm going to say no. And then you got Jordan Fuller, box safety over Xavier Woods, if I had to pick a defensive back for Carolina.
Luckily, that's not how fantasy works. You don't have to pick a player. It's not the Pro Bowl or the All-Star games where you have to pick a player from each team. You can avoid.
I'm just telling you who are the options on the team. It's
well, everybody's an option. You can pick anybody you want. Do you want to win?
Recommend,
yes.
Yeah,
who do you pick from the Saints that you would tell a person that wants to actually win their game, not just because?
Carl Granderson, edge rusher, not Cameron Jordan. Demario Davis, IDP, LB3 for Pete Werner. Yeah, I feel like that's everybody else. For the Saints, I think I'm not missing anybody. But yeah, those would be the players there for IDP purposes.
Gotcha. And it is official that Tyreek Hill was cited for reckless driving, pulled over, had an altercation, detained, but Drew Rose now said he will play. It's also official that the Bengals and wide receiver Jamar Chase are not expected to reach a contract extension before today's regular season opener. Remains unclear if Chase will play today still. Inactives and actives will be out in about 30 minutes. Stay tuned to the Fantasy and Frames pregame show as we give you all of the inactive and active situations moving forward. And we are moving forward.
These wide receivers, man, they're just divas. Every single year, there's always one or two of them that's complaining. They got their panties in a bunch. Oh, I'm not paid enough. Like, it's ridiculous, man. They're still going to get a franchise tag, right? What are they getting, like $24 million as a franchise tag?
He has 2 years left. Jamar Chase,
He's 2 years left, and he's sitting there.
Oh. I know. But let's go to a person who is not a diva at wide receiver. That's Justin Jefferson, who's paid handsomely for his talents at wide receiver. And he did go on to say that he actually does it because he signed his deal that was agreeable so that he didn't put his teammates into a position of thinking he's only out for the money. Now, being the highest paid wide receiver makes that easy to say that comment. But at the same time, it's warranted. Is it warranted to assume, we talked about Ty Chandler earlier, that he's going to see enough work for flex option? We've kind of talked about that. The fact of the pass rush of the New York Giants versus the Vikings solid offensive line, we talked about, I'm sorry, I got distracted there for a second. The pass catching for Jordan Addison. Is Jordan Addison an option for just flex place?
Yeah, so he's kind of off of that injury that's been kind of like nagging him all off season, or at least during the summer. I'm a little bit concerned about that. I don't think Sam Darnold is the quarterback that you're looking to support two wide receivers. It's the Justin Jefferson show in terms of targets. So yeah, I'm fading Jordan Addison this week. Going on the flip side, Jonathan, I know you have to go real quickly. I want to get your opinion on Malik Neighbors, Daniel Jones. Let's go back in time to Minnesota, where the Giants upset the Vikings in the playoffs, largely because Daniel Jones was making plays with his legs as well as in the air with guys like Isaiah Hodgins and Darius Slayton. Now he has what are your thoughts on Malik Neighbors this week?
It does seem like a different world, doesn't it? When like Daniel Jones was like, I mean, look, they overpaid him, but there was a world where he was kind of like okay-ish. I'm so excited just to watch Neighbors. Like, he's such a cool player. He is going to get absolutely peppered with targets. I mean, like, if you told me at the end of the season that he was like top 5, top 3 in targets this season, I really wouldn't be surprised. I'm not really interested in anyone else outside of him. I think he's going to be seeing pretty much double-digit targets most weeks. I think Singletary is kind of fine enough just because he's going to see all of the work. but it's not someone that I'm excited about. He's a low end flex play. He's going to be good enough to kind of have in your running back spot during bye weeks, but not someone that I'm particularly excited about. It's basically neighbours and that's it. But I am really excited just to watch him play.
Go ahead, Dave. Call him. Say his name.
What are we doing? Who?
You normally say Devin Singletary, and then he's taken the job in 3 different locations that he's had it. He was paid to, of all the running backs that New York could have brought in. If you watch the Hard Knocks show in New York, they are high on Singletary.
I'm sure they're high right now after watching Friday night and what they gave up in Saquon Barkley. Guarantee you that.
That is goes without saying, but Saquon Barkley was being wasted in that offense. Unfortunately, probably how Devin Singletary will be to an extent, but I think Jonathan's exactly right though. If you can get a running back on a team that maybe Neighbors lifts them up, maybe Daniels, there's a lot of maybes in this. And if I'm not going to.
If Saquon couldn't do it, I don't think Devin Singletary is doing it. Let's be honest.
I got to be honest with you. We haven't said his name yet, given that I know it's on the show sheet. You were about to say his name, but for expediency's sake, Wan'Dale Robinson. I love Wan'Dale Robinson in this offense here, Jones.
First of all, nothing's expedient about the name Wan'Dale Robinson. That's 45 letters, brother.
Wan'Dale Robinson. Best. Dale. We're gonna call him Dale from now on.
WD. He should change his name. He should change his number to 40. He'd be WD 40, and that'd be a baller ass name combo.
Absolutely.
And he'd be oil up.
Imagine the
offense.
endorsements he'd get. That'd be wild.
Imagine Wan'Dale selling WD 40 to mechanics over in Memphis. All right. IDP options in New York. We know Brian Burns, Jorge is said. I wouldn't saying whatever you want to call it, hot take, whatever. Brian Burns is going to lead the league in sacks, which is the compelling part about the hot take of that is that the Giants won't be leading in too many games, meaning pass rush opportunities and sack opportunities will be more limited. But I think his talent is especially lined up next to Dexter Lawrence and opposite Kayvon Thibodeau. Those are a couple names, Jorge, I'm sure you were probably thinking about mentioning, but Bobby Okereke or Okereke.
Oh yeah, hands down. One of the I had him entering draft season as my LB1 over Lewickin, to be honest with you, just because I just loved his tackle production last year for the Giants, and the Giants are looking to be not so good this year, so the tackle volume should be in his favor. And then as far as defensive back here, I'm waiting for Tyler Nubin to be the declared starter rookie here. I'm not so much sold on Dane Belton. He's just a guy, in my opinion. But Tyler Nubin, the rookie here, I think he's going to make a huge impact in the secondary once he gets the starting role here.
Thank you, Kerry. This break-in news is brought to you by Folgers. Sorry,
Nice.
Sponsorships: WD-40 and Folgers, and yeah, Tyler, he will lead the league in sacks this year. So,
Jonathan, we're going to bounce. Thank you very much for joining us. And what does that say? FIF Dynasty Champion 2023.
Just thought I would remind everyone.
Oh, great. Do I need to put? I'll put runner up.
I was going to say.
Hey, Jonathan has to go. Don't get back. Don't worry. You.
We'll see you
Although
next
I think I might have cursed it because I've got Jordan Love and I've got Jamar Chase, so I'm on the downward spiral.
Yeah, I'll show you who's boss, huh? Get out of here. All right, buddy. Really good seeing you again.
Right.
Can't wait till we
See you
talk
guys
in about another week from now.
All right. Okay.
See ya.
See you guys later.
And then there were 3.
And then there were 3. Speaking of 3, Las Vegas at Los Angeles Chargers. Chargers are favored by 3, which is shocking to me that the Raiders are, but I guess it's home for the Chargers, so it is what it is. 40-point over. Terrible game. What?
Can I give you the Vikings IDPs just real quickly? Right. Give me.
Oh yeah.
If I had to pick Bernard or Van Ginkel, give me Van Ginkel just because I like his name. Going to IDPs, Blake Cashman's getting the green dot. Sorry, Nate. Ivan Pace is not taking over just yet. And if I had to pick a cornerback or safety or defensive back, rather, in this Vikings secondary, it'd be Josh Metellus.
That hurts. That hurts. I still tell people, and for anybody that is watching that asked me about Ivan Pace and IDP upside, and I said, have faith in Pace. I'm sorry for week 1. Hang tight. Blake Cashman has not proven to me in any of the previous years that he's capable of maintaining that, top role in a linebacking group. So let Pace, the talent will play out eventually if I had to give my honest opinion on that. So let's move to SoFi. Raiders at Chargers. Like I said, Chargers 3-point favorites, 40-point over-under. Unfortunately for us, the game is going to be without Malcolm Kuntz. That's one of Jorge's, my guys on the IDP side. Again, don't worry. Once he comes back, he will resume what last year was a really, really good season for him. And I think the sky's the limit for that young man. Jackson Powers Johnson is out, as well as DJ Chark. So, quarterback play. We talked a little bit about Justin Herbert. Herbert is, I think, outside of the QB1 conversation this week. Maybe there's a case to be made that in Superflex you're comfortable starting him because his arm talent is there. Sure. But running back position, Zamir White, Jorge, Dave. My concern is not early down work. It's been said he's gonna play early down work. They even, mentioned it numerous times. My question is third down and like 2-minute drills, and if they get behind in a game that they're already not favored. How high are we on Zamir White?
He's not your running back 1, so he's probably best case scenario your running back 2, more likely than not flex. So I'm not as concerned, to be honest with you, Nate. But I don't know. I mean, is he going to get the work this week? Probably. It's going to be a good gauge to see what he does. But yeah, look, if he's your running back 1, you got a lot more worries to. A lot more things to worry about than that. But no, look, I think they're going to add the ball out. Simple as that. You've got some good pass catches. You've got, Jacoby Myers. Obviously, you got Devontae Adams. You got Brock Bowers. You've got Mayer, the other tight end there. Ball's going in the air. It's not staying on the ground. So I'm not that worried about him. I think he'll get 10 to 15 touches. He'll probably give you something serviceable, 80 yards, maybe 4 in the end zone. So I'm okay with that.
Yeah, what you mentioned Brock Bowers. What's the barometer for you, Jorge, on Brock Bowers? I mean, non-tight end premium leagues, is he someone just the pure appeal of what we know he could be from a college pedigree standpoint, or is this someone that you're starting because you absolutely believe in the rapport that him and Gardner Minshew can establish?
Both.
Okay.
And the fact of the matter is, if Brock Bowers is your tight end 1, it's because you waited to draft him out of necessity and loaded up a running back or wide receiver, and you just were like, oh well, I'm going to go with the upside here of one of the most heralded tight end prospects out of college football in the past X amount of years. Sure, I'm going to take my gamble here and hope that he pays off. I don't think you started your draft where you're just like, ooh, Brock Bowers, tight end 1. You know what I mean? He very well can finish that way. A lot of people are hoping, but yeah.
I think we're all looking for the next Sam Laporta potty. We're all looking for that. Is he going to be that?
Stacy, are you listening, Stacy Laporta potty?
The talent is there. I don't think that anybody outside of Devontae Adams is at risk of really cannibalizing a ton of targets that could go Brock Bowers' direction. I just worry about the offense.
Was he picked second round though, right? Early second round, right?
He was first round.
Yeah, Bowers
was first round.
Yeah.
I mean,
he was top 15.
You're not taking a top 15 pick unless you plan on using them. Let's be honest. So that's a big call. The front office all got together and said, hey, this guy can help us win games. They're not doing that so they can throw the ball to him 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
And look, Gardner Minshew is not terrible. Is he elite? Of course not. No, don't get me wrong. But we've seen him have some good games.
I
We've
mean,
seen him be serviceable.
Michael Mayer was the 35th pick overall. So, I mean, maybe that's their plan, though. Maybe that's the plan they had. And Tyler says, Michael Mayer was the second round. Bowers was 12th overall. Maybe investing in
Big call, 12th overall.
Hey, you've seen your Patriots do it with two tight ends, drafted both early, and look at the production that you've gotten out of both, or had out of both of them. Not comparing Gardner Minshew and the Vegas Raiders or Aiden O'Connell at some point to Tom Brady and the Patriots, but if they think that
this or Michael Mayer and Aaron Hernandez, but yes, we understand what you're going with that.
Well, I will tell you, Michael Mayer last year killed many fantasy teams if you wanted to start him. So, hey, don't too soon.
Seeing it's the Raiders, the criminal track record might be on pace. Who knows?
Possibly. All right, guys, we're gonna play Fantasy and Frame's favorite game. What will the rushing attempt breakdown look like? Is Gus Edwards versus J.K. Dobbins? Let's go with the percentages. What percentage of the rushing attempts will Gus Edwards have in this week? Over, under 50%.
Over.
Under.
But not much.
Under.
Oh, so will J.K. Dobbins have over 50% of the
I think J.K. Dobbins is the primary back.
Oh, look at this. Perfect. Nobody knows, which is exactly why this game is fun, because that's what scares me a little bit about this.
Harbaugh loves using a versatile back. J.K. Dobbins is not just a pass-catching back. He's not some little dude. He's not Deuce Vaughn, right? You're not using him as an emergency. He's a north-south runner as well. He's a brute running back. He can juke. He can move. J.K. Dobbins is the guy. Don't get it twisted. Now, if I'm 3 yards out, I need to punch the ball in, 100% I'm giving it to Gus Edwards. But I think that's what you're relying on with Gus Edwards, is you're within 5 yards of the end zone. It's first down, and they're just going to hand him the rock. Is he going to fall in the end zone? I would believe so. I think he's a good enough running back to do that. But in the middle of the field, it's all J.K. Dobbins. When they're 20 yards out, they're going to be trying wheel routes and what have you with J.K. Dobbins. They didn't bring him over for no reason.
Okay.
So J.K. Dobbins is the guy.
Well, Dave, Carrie disagrees with you. She says J.K. is going to be under 50%, and unfortunately, her opinion is what rules my house and this show. So that is what it's going to be. It's a Gus Edwards show. We'll go to the next round 2 of this fun game, which is choose a flex option. And Jorge is dancing. I can hear the theme music to the game show in his head playing. I don't know which game show it would be. Maybe the match game or Wheel of Fortune or
the old school Family Feud. Dun, 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 dun,
yeah, it is. There you go. All right. 100 people surveyed. Top 2 answers are on the board. Who is a better flex option, Ladd McConkey or Joshua Palmer? That's not how Family Feud is played. They don't give you the answers before and you choose. So, you know what? Forget I said it that way. How about you just give me the answer? How about you just tell me what movie you want to watch? Ladd McConkey, Josh Palmer.
Ladd McConkey.
Dave?
It's Josh Palmer. I'm not sold on Ladd McConkey yet, man. I'm not there. Yeah, I think he gets some work for sure, but he's not a big receiver like Justin Herbert likes to look for. I don't know. I'm not sold. I think it's going to be Palmer.
Okay.
But I don't see what is it. What is it that I guess inspires you about McConkey?
I think draft capital and college production. What we saw, like the hype going in, and the amount of love that I've seen the Chargers spill for Ladd. But Jorge, I'll let you answer that question.
Well, for me, it's slot snaps. We've seen a lot of work for him in training camp, as well as coming out of the slot, something in an area of the field that Keenan Allen was very well versed in. And I think this offensive line aside of Rashawn Slater needs a little bit of help here to help with Justin Herbert. Herbert's coming off of this injury during training camp. He's probably not at full strength, wants to get the ball out quickly. So it's the position on the field. It's the area in the wide receiver position that he feels most comfortable targeting, and just his, like you said, Nate, his draft capital and college production. And holy shit, Dak Prescott just signed a pretty big extension. Breaking news.
Breaking news, Adam Schefter reports Dak Prescott, just hours before kickoff today, signs a 4-year, $240 million extension, making him the highest paid player in NFL history. Wow. Congratulations, Dak.
That's crazy.
That is decent money, I would say, to play a game. I'm not envious at all. Not envious in the least. All right, Jorge. Las Vegas IDP options that are not named Malcolm Kuntz. Go.
So Max Crosby, Christian Wilkins, defensive tackle in the league, Robert Spillane. I would love to say Trayvon Morig, but I'm not. Nate Hobbs, though, as somebody who I think in a quarterback-specific league you definitely should be considering. For the Chargers, return of the Mac last year is an understatement. Just went nuts. No, I'm not recommending Joey Bosa. The linebacking situation is a little hazy right now. I think Denzel Perryman gets the nod there. And then, of course, defensive back Derwin James. But don't be scared away from Lloyd Gilman. Also had a very productive season last year, but Derwin James is the guy.
Kieran needs a raise. You are on salary, and the coffee's mediocre. So we'll keep it at your pay scale where you're at right now. Let's go to Denver at Seattle. I'm very intrigued to watch the Seattle Seahawks offense this game. I feel like I'm joining the party with people that are extremely excited about Ryan Grubb's new look offense. Denver on the other side, or on the other hand, I don't know. Bo Nix is. I feel like that the ability and the accuracy will play well in real football. That they'll be able to move the chains sometimes. Sometimes is what I said, and that's true. Unfortunately, there's only one person on that team, pass catching wise, that I want a piece of, and that's Cortland Sutton. And I know last year, 10 touchdowns or double-digit touchdowns still was outside the wide receiver 2-3 range there, just because the volume and the yardage wasn't quite there. But now no Jerry Jeudy, no Tim Patrick. Sneaky wide receiver 3 option for me, for many teams. I think it's safe floor. I don't know if the ceiling is how high it is, but any other pass catchers in Denver that you're looking at?
I would love to say the rapport between Bo Nix and Troy Franklin is going to show up in week 1. I don't think that's going to be the case. I'm actually a little bit higher on Bo Nix than I think a lot of people, just because the narrative that's been coming out of Dolphins camp that Sean Payton is absolutely in love with him. He runs a similar short passing game type of offense that Bo Nix was familiar with implementing at Oregon. You drafted his favorite wide receiver from Oregon. Mm-hmm. This running back situation with Javonte and Jaleel McLaughlin, a lot of question marks here, which makes you wonder whether or not they're going to put their faith in this running game and give Bo Nix a little bit more of the reins to start off. He's the only rookie quarterback, although due to injury, that is starting, I believe, this season, if not for J.J. McCarthy, had he not tore his ACL. So, actually, no, I take back everything I just said right there, because obviously Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels. Forget what I just said. But yeah, thank you. But am I starting Bo Nix this week? No, I'm not.
I do want to ask a question, though. Like at running back, Javonte Williams, I feel like is probably going to see the lion's share of the work. But a lot of people are fans of Jaleel McLaughlin and his upside going further into the season. Is week 1 a viable time to even insert McLaughlin into your flex at all?
Negative, just because at the end of the day, it's all about snaps. It's all about opportunity. And yes, McLaughlin had great efficiency metrics last year, outproduced in terms of efficiency Javonte Williams, but it was Javonte Williams getting the attempts. And if that continues to be the case, I don't care how efficient you are. If you're not getting on the field, that means nothing.
Yeah. And like I said, on the Seattle side, really excited. Geno Smith, is kind of one of those guys that, I don't think you're in a pinch right now to start him as your QB1, but in the super flex where even you said earlier, you don't have to put a quarterback in. He's one of the ones that I would have in my super flex spot. I love Kenneth Walker. I don't worry about the Zach Charbonnet cannibalization of any touches or carries. DK's a must play, even though I think that matchup against Pat Surtain when he's faced with him might be a little challenging, but I still think that the talent will supersede the matchup. It's the JSN talk that I think is really the one where he has that conversation piece of being a really good wide receiver 3, almost not guaranteed, but really, really good flex play. But I'm benching Tyler Lockett. Is that all sound accurate to you, Jorge?
100%.
Gotcha. Then let's talk about some IDP real quick, and then we'll get to a question we have in the chat. So let's start with the Denver side, man.
Yeah, sure. So give me starting off here, Alex Singleton, linebacker, and I gotta be honest with you, I need to double check right now if Cody Barton is also starting at inside linebacker, because if he is,
they have him listed.
I would start Cody Barton too, to be honest with you, as your LB3. Jonathan Cooper, a huge fan of, and DB, strong safety PJ Locke just had such a great end of the season, for IDP managers last year, and I think he'll continue that trend.
On the Seattle side.
Yeah, on the Seattle side, thank you. No Nuosu, so give me William Mape, give me Julian Love. If I had to pick a linebacker, it'd be Tyrell Dodson. The player, though, I am most excited for, we've been talking about him on Shoot the Gap. Yes, we miss you, Nate, is Devin Witherspoon. Slot cornerback, but excels in terms of tackle rate against the run, has great pressure rate, tackle rate and coverage. Low NFL passer rating when targeted. This guy plays all over the field. Even as a cornerback, he finished in the top 20 in Fantasy Pros IDP scoring. He definitely has DB2 floor with DB1 upside, in my belief.
100% agree. Devin Witherspoon, love him. He's an Illini, so I like that coming in already. Illini won yesterday big again, not big, but in a big game against Kansas. I will think that Devin Witherspoon he's again one of those. He's the first non-safety in my rankings on the season, which is, you and I both know, outside of safeties, corners, pretty much I'm going to stick with the slot corners that have that upside. So Be Growing Stuff wants to know, pick one, either Pickens, F1 Terry McLaurin, or Calvin Ridley. You're welcome.
It's F1 Terry McLaurin, not Scary Terry.
Don't criticize the viewers.
I have to. These people need to know the rules. Play by the rules. And give me Calvin Ridley.
Dave, pick one.
Yeah, I'm just going with I'm going with McLaurin. McLaurin's he's underrated, man. I don't know how he fell in so many drafts, to be honest. He's a quality receiver. That could be a top 10 receiver. I wouldn't be shocked at the end of the year if I see him at the 8, 9, or 10, right? So if you picked him up in drafts, you're playing him, you should be happy. Great player.
Jamar Chase is a go, by the way, just reported here on NFL.
No, just reported on Fantasy and Frames.
Aha! Yes. Well,
your source, trust us, bro. Trust us. All right. Mandela wants to know PPR, Nico or Cup? Oh, and Raheem Mostert, Jerome Ford, or Aaron Jones as the RB2. Let's start with the running back one, because that seems like not easier, but one that, like, I think that as much as I trust Jerome Ford to have the majority of the work in Cleveland, I think the upside for Raheem Mostert is better. I would go Mostert. Dave?
I'm leaning Aaron Jones. I mean, look at the work he's done as a 3-down back. That's what he's there for. So I don't know. I like Aaron Jones. I think Aaron Jones is in my mind, the clear cut number 2. Running back 2. Sorry,
Jorge.
Mostert.
Okay, let's go with this receiver one. Nico.
This is simple. Is it?
Yes, Cooper Kupp.
Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, I think Cooper Kupp as well, but I don't think it's as simple as.
I'm kind of shocked Puka went in first round this year. I got to be honest. I mean, I think they're the same player. I really do.
Mhm.
And if you got Kupp, I was unfortunate where I missed him in a bunch of leagues. I mean, you did very well. You know, I think they're going to be a even split 1 and 2. I really do.
And I got to be honest, to piggyback off of the similar playing styles, DeMarcus Robinson, if he's on your waiver wire, if the Rams still implement that 3 wide receiver system they were using toward the end of last year, pick him up.
It wasn't even towards the end of last year. Shocking. 93% of the time last year they ran 11 personnel. So yeah, I agree there. Falcons D or the Chicago D. Oh man, this one's a little tougher.
Is it?
For me, it is, just because I don't know why I still don't trust the Chicago pass rush. And I shouldn't. I think the Tennessee offensive line is still pretty weak. So you know what I'll do? I'll go with a team that has, I believe the Bears will lead, giving them more turnover potential when Tennessee has to throw. And so I'll lean the Bears there. What are you guys thinking?
It's not by much, but it's the Bears.
Yeah.
It's I don't know, but it's a close one. There's no, I'd say hit the waiver wire, see what else you got.
Holy, Tyler mentions of the Dak Prescott contract, $231 million guaranteed. Holy moly. I mean, that guy's got a family to provide for. Cheapskates.
He's got a lot of families he can provide for $231 million. So
yeah, take care. Kerry needs to raise Dak. Come on. Can't do this all myself. So all right, let's go to the Dallas at Cleveland Browns. Tyler, if you're listening, this is your Cleveland Browns. They are favored by 2.5. The Browns are, which I think is kind of shocking. Maybe that's because I just believe in Dallas. I don't believe in Deshaun Watson myself. And let's talk about that. No Jedrick Wills. The Deshaun Watson shoulder fatigue, concern has never really gone away during the offseason or preseason. Jorge, is Deshaun Watson even someone that you're rostering for a later day? Is there any chance you're starting him?
Neither. This is truly. What is it in the Missouri? What do you say? Show me state. He's in the show me state quarterbacks. So yeah, no.
That's nice of you. You know my state. What we say? I don't know what they say there for you.
What does that even mean?
Show me state. Show me. If I don't know, I'm not gonna let's talk about this example. If I'm asking you to show me why the Cowboys should start Zeke or Rico Dowdle, and people are adamant saying Zeke because he's done it, then I would say, well, show me that he can be the lead back. And if you can show me that, then I will listen to what you have to say.
But what are you showing in the state of Missouri? I'm confused.
Anything?
No, we're asking you to show me.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not showing you nothing. We don't show our hands. Keep it clean.
Very aggressive state, isn't it?
Very aggressive. Right. Very aggressive.
Looking for a fight there. There's a fighting words. There's more fighting words than anything, right?
Missouri is so neutral in anything. Other than our take on Zeke versus Rico Dowdle, Missouri has concluded, I believe I took a vote, and everybody thinks that Rico Dowdle will be the RB1 for that team by week 3.
There's no showing. It's been shown. It's done. It's Zeke.
Okay. Jorge, tell me 3 reasons why Dave is wrong in that, and it will be Rico Dowdle.
Well, Rico Dowdle it's almost like he's being groomed. He's not going to be running back who's going to be playing special teams. He's strictly going to be an in between the tackles runner. I believe Zeke is going to be that pass catching back. Zeke is not 2016 Zeke, 17 Zeke, 18, 19, not even 2020 Zeke. He is a pass catching running back at this stage of his career. Rico Dowdle is the far more efficient one. Give me Rico Dowdle in terms of who I'd rather have as a Cowboys running back. For
Steelers fans and fantasy fans alike, Russell Wilson is inactive.
How's Russell Wilson inactive? Didn't he get announced that he was the...
Well, he's the captain, but he's injured. He had I think it's a calf injury, and he re-aggravated it a couple days back, or maybe whenever. I don't keep that close track on Russell Wilson calf injuries, but it'll be Justin Fields starting for the Steelers today.
Hey, his job to lose.
He just jumped into my top 10. So
there you go. I can't blame him one bit. It's a very. I need to make sure that we speed through this so I can go through the 45 teams to see which ones I have Justin Fields on. Oh, sorry about that. So let's jump back into the Cleveland-Dallas situation. Yeah, we know CeeDee Lamb is CeeDee Lamb. Brandon Cooks, where is the gauge on Cooks? Is anybody comfortable starting Brandon Cooks right now, or we?
Yeah. I mean, look, he's a very viable flex option for people. So yeah, I would be okay with starting him. He's just, people tend to forget that when he has been targeted in the offense as the number 2 receiving option, he's produced. So.
Yeah. Hey man, if we're living in the past with Zeke, we're living in caveman times with Brandon Cooks. The iPhone was barely out when he was a starting wide receiver. Come on. Brandon Cooks is decent, but he's a small receiver. He relied his whole career on his elite speed, which, let's be honest, is not there now. What is he, 32, 3? Something like that?
There you go.
I mean, he's not what he was 10 years ago, 9 years ago when he joined the league. So, I don't know. You're not. So you're talking about a smaller back who can't juke as quick, who isn't as shifty, doesn't have the quickness. I don't know. I think he finishes the season with maybe 600 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Oh, now that's yeah. Go ahead. What you got?
T. Higgins, however, is declared out.
Okay, so we do have Chase, no Higgins. With that being said, Yoshivas still the option over Jermaine Burton.
For me, I know Keith said he'd rather have Jermaine Burton, but
but Keith actually said also with as the season progresses too, and I can understand Burton building the case. I think in a one spot week 1 only, Yoshivas is the one that I would feel like is going to have the better chance of having a target volume that will warrant a flex play. And speaking of flex play versus upside, on the Cleveland Brown side, Jerome Ford, many 0 RB heroes for drafters because they could wait and get a starting running back pretty late. Is he an RB 0 RB hero this week, or is he more of like a middling, boring flex that you just throw in and hope to see the workload produce?
I think he's a flex option. He had a few good games, but depending on your scoring settings, right? Whether it's non, half, or full. In a high PPR situation, or full PPR, or a half, I'd be as excited though as much as I would be in a non PPR. But he's definitely flexible. He's flexible and
flexible. Okay, perfect. Good to know. Let's go to the IDP side because Amari Cooper is the pass catching, role for Cleveland with it. David Njoku, Jerry Jeudy. I don't see too many that are just clamoring. I'm intrigued. Like in a 14-team league, put it that way. In our Kings Classic 14-team draft, I have Jerry Jeudy as my 3rd flex spot. So, yeah, if that doesn't say enough, nothing else does. But before we jump on the IDP side, do you want to get this question here from Denzel? Deshaun Watson or Geno Smith? I'll go Geno. Dave?
I'm going to Deshaun Watson. Yeah, I like what he's got with Cooper being the number 1. Geno is okay. I mean, obviously, I know he's got weapons in Metcalf and Lockett, what have you, but he's been a little bit shaky this last year, to be honest. And Moss, Eckler, or Algier, it's got to be Eckler. I can't believe Eckler has fell so far in drafts. I mean, this is a guy that was going, 2nd, 3rd, 4th overall a year ago, and people have forgotten he exists. I don't know. I think he's in a new system, better offensive line. Yeah, I think it's going to be a split back system, to be honest. And I think Eckler's going to get at least 15 touches total.
Jorge, what are you on both of those, Geno or Deshaun Watson?
Geno and then Eckler for me.
I go Eckler as well. And Gino, that Washington Commanders offense they're going to run so many plays under Cliff Kingsbury that I think that despite my like lack of love for Eckler as much this year, I think there could be enough volume that he and Brian Robinson both produce within that top, RB3 range. So the IDP for Dallas, Jorge, we know Micah Parsons. Where are you at on someone like, for people that maybe are getting acclimated with IDP, someone like Trayvon Diggs, who just, we've seen over the past couple of years, he is a pick six waiting to happen. Do you risk non-cornerback specific leagues? Do you ever put someone like that in your defensive back spot willingly?
No, I mean, you can't bank on, just like you can't bank on touchdown production as a predictor of immediate success. You can't bank on interceptions. Like, so much has to go right for you to be in the right place at the right time to intercept the ball. That's out of your control. If he would have told me he had higher tackle floor numbers or played closer to the line of scrimmage, or he played in the slot, then yeah, but not based off of his interceptions.
All right, and last, but at the linebacker position,
Gross.
Eric Kendricks. Hey, don't say about Damone Clark. Damone Clark.
I didn't say Damone Clark. I just said you said Eric Kendricks.
I did. Yeah, started with that. Either one of those two entering any of your lineups.
Unfortunately, it's Eric Kendricks, the guy I said yuck to. For me, at defensive back, though, I love Donovan Wilson. No more J-Ron Curse there to split box snaps with.
Mm-hmm.
He is basically going to be the de facto real second linebacker until DeMarvion overtakes Eric Kendricks, I believe, at linebacker. That is a name to pay attention to, but that's not this week.
That's for Dynasty talk for sure. Another name that does warrant consideration looking forward from this team, Marquise Bell saw significant snaps last year. He played both safety and linebacker position. It wouldn't shock me if they do implement him sometimes, flipping him in if Eric Kendricks does falter. I don't think he's going to take the role from him necessarily, but maybe a 3, whatever. I don't know what Marquise Bell, he's still listed as a defensive back, but he played more linebacker snaps. So he doesn't get both, but just a name to pay attention to. Let's jump to the other side for the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, sorry. So it'd be obviously Myles Garrett.
Mm-hmm.
You're starting as your defensive end. Jordan Hicks, the new acquisition from the Minnesota Vikings, has been dubbed as the green dot wearer, which is kind of disappointing, as I was hoping Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah would have been that guy as he finished the season strong last year. I think both of those are playable linebackers, and of course Grant Delpit as your safety defensive back. If I had to pick him, yeah.
And that's the Dallas Cowboys, Cleveland Browns. Let's go to your Washington Commanders, Jorge. One of the more exciting games I want to see. It's one of the most exciting times in the nation's capital for years in reality with Jaden Daniels. Tampa Bay is 3.5 points favorites. It is only a 42.5 point spread over under. Not expecting a ton of fireworks, but are you expecting the fireworks for Jaden Daniels in week 1, Dave?
I am. I'm expecting him to do well. I actually think this game will be a shootout. I'm a big Baker fan as well, so I think they're two QBs who like to air out the ball. They have the weapons there to be able to do it. I mean, we were just talking about Austin Eckler, how explosive he is out of the backfield. Obviously, Scary Terry. Look, I like this game. I think it's what?
He hates Scary Terry because Jorge. It's one of his bugaboos, if you will. Is his actual nickname is Terry F1 McLaurin, like the F1 McLaren, and so Scary Terry has been this nickname that people have given him that he's never actually admitted to saying. I think he's just acknowledged it. It is what it is. People are going to say it, and so Jorge, every time someone says Scary Terry, I see the shock in his jaw that goes into his ear and then through his body. And so I give the buzzer anytime he says Scary Terry because I know Jorge would,
I say either one. I've said F1, Scary Terry. It is what it is, all right? Scary F1. There you go.
There you go. Exactly.
You get so passionate about your boy. Anyway, so let's talk about the player in question, right? Boo. But yeah, either way, he's look. I think there's talent on both sides. I think the game stays in the air. I don't think it's a ground and pound game. Look, I think it's going to be over 50 points. I'll take the over on this game. It's going to be close.
Yep. I will say I was going to ask a question, like in a situation, it was one of those like, who do I pick? Because it's my situation. And I have Jaden Daniels and Jared Goff. That two combination in probably about 10 different leagues where I took Jaden Daniels first, and then 5 rounds later, I can still get Jared Goff. And I'm starting Jared Goff this week.
I would as
Jaden
well.
Daniels.
This
Okay.
week I would play Goff. I mean, you know what you have in Goff. Like, he's a good quarterback. Let's call it what it is. He's a good quarterback. You know,
Perfect team for him.
He's definitely top 10, right? You would you say he's top 10?
This week I have him as number 8.
There. So look, he's a good quarterback. At number 8.
Yep.
And you picked him in the 12th round or something?
Yeah, it's pretty late. I like really late. Yeah, so around
it's a
there.
Good start. It's a really good start. So I'm okay.
I'm hoping. So now, Jorge, I'll ask you the next question. We kind of touched on this a little bit earlier. I think you and I both are in agreement that Brian Robinson at some point will separate himself from Eckler as far as being their primary one and be used more in the pass game. And it won't be so much a 50-50 split. But will that happen in week 1, or do we think that we're going to see a good mix of both?
I think you're going to. No, I think it's Robinson who's going to get the majority of touches out of the backfield, and it's going to be Eckler who's going to be the one who's the receiving option. I agree with Dave. I think this is going to be a passing shootout. The Commanders, I want to say, were dead last. I should say they were first in the league last year with most receiving yards allowed or passing yards allowed. So that doesn't bode well given the fact they have Mike Evans. They're facing Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. That definitely does not help. So they're going to have to stay in games, and Eckler is going to be that receiving option, and Robinson's going to be the guy who's going to try and keep it close.
Eckler has something to prove. I mean, he's been an elite back for several years, and he had a terrible year last year, an absolute terrible year. So he's out there to show the world that he can be the number one guy. So, watch this space. Eckler will do some damage.
I think that's totally dependent upon the amount of work that Kingsbury and company give him. And I think, maybe it could be a hot hand approach. That's, again, like I said, week 1 is the time when I'm watching to see trends.
It's always the hot hand approach. That's the thing.
I don't disagree.
With any running back nowadays, it's who's the better guy. Your draft capital nowadays does not matter, especially when it comes to running backs. If it's, hey, this guy is getting a chunk yardage, he's catching it, he's protecting the ball, he's able to get some good catches out of the backfield. They don't care what their name is or where they're from. Every team just plays that guy,
And that is true. The only thing is, like, if Eckler's only used on 3rd and distance and, mostly passing situations, they don't see his chops in between the tackles or on stretch plays. But regardless, we know that it's any other pass catchers not named F1 McLaurin, besides maybe one tight end, that if you're in a tight end premium or super tight end leagues, Corey, I know Zach Ertz is a name that you think should be on people's minds, maybe early in the season, maybe not full when Benson takes over or whatever the role may be. But how high up do you have Zach Ertz in your rankings for week 1?
Zach Ertz, I have in my rankings in half PPR as the tight end 16. So yeah, I feel he's definitely a tight end 2. But I do see he could have a tight end 1 upside, just given the history Kingsbury has had scheming him open, and his time is there in Arizona. We know that Jaden Daniels is going to air it out this game. At least that's the narrative I'm going with. They've been showing a lot of chemistry in training camp together. Ertz looks rejuvenated, and like you hit the nail right on the head. Maybe not the whole season, but the start of the season. I think this is going to be Zach Ertz is going to find the fountain of youth here for the first few weeks for the Commanders.
Yeah, there definitely won't be many mouths to feed in Washington through the air outside of those names we just touched on. As far as Tampa Bay goes, honestly, Baker again isn't a QB1. Rashad White versus Bucky Irving, I don't think is going to be anything to concern ourselves with. I think it's going to be Rashad White for week 1. The pass catchers are going to be Mike Evans. The pass catchers are going to be Chris Godwin. The tight end, Kate Otten, is intriguing to me simply because of the total volume that he was on the field last year. As far as I think he was third in total routes run amongst tight ends, but you're really hoping for a touchdown out of him. I mean, I think that he is a likely safe floor as far as like 5 for, 45, something like that. But we saw this at the end of last year. Godwin really moved more into the slot. The two biggest games of the season, which were the divisional game and the wild card game, and he was their number one target. Kate Otten has that potential. I just don't know if week one I want to recommend him over some of the other top 12 names, but it's definitely something that waiver wire. Don't be shocked that he's the number one tight end on the waiver wire when he comes out and puts up 7 targets, 5 catches, 59 yards or something to that effect. I don't think it would be too crazy. Let's talk about IDP, bud. Let's go to the commander side of the ball.
Sure. So for me, it starts and ends with Bobby Wagner. Frankie Louis coming over from Carolina, being asked to play more of that Micah Parsons role, which I think will add diversity to him. I think it'll lower his tackle floor, which is why I'm moving him out of my LB2 range and more into like an LB3 flex option until we can see how well he adjusts to that Parsons role that Dan Quinn is using. Strong safety, Jeremy Chin. I'm a believer. I think the resurgence of Jeremy Chin, again, also coming from the Carolina Panthers. The reports of him in training camp have been he's been playing closer to the line of scrimmage, helping out run support. Words I love to hear. Side for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I'm a huge fan of Yaya Diaby. He finished the season last year with 7.5 sacks as a rookie. He now will start as an outside edge rusher. So give me him. Give me Levante David. Another year older, another 100+ tackle season. Love it. And then at free safety, give me Anton Winfield Jr.
There you go. Sounds like pretty much everybody on Tampa, which is not shocking. They've been a really, really good source of IDP upside and IDP talent for years. So Sunday night game, Los Angeles Rams at the Detroit Lions, 52.5 point total. Detroit's favored by 4.5. Jorge, over under 4 punt returns for Kyron Williams. How about over under 1 punt return for Kyron Williams?
Over.
Yeah. Okay. So it's not just blowing smoke. It's they actually are going to use him in the kick return role, or at least punt return role.
Yeah, but I don't think there are going to be a lot of punts in this game. I think there's going to be a lot of field goals or touchdowns.
So that is an intriguing question, though, is if he is used, and this isn't something that I've heard too many conversations about. Let's say he does return a punt, and let's say he actually breaks off 17 yards. Does he go right back out as the starting running back, or is that the time when special teams is leaving the field and Blake Corum comes in for the first team offense and gets the first touch?
I feel if the Rams are leading in this game, that it'll start off in the first half where Kyron Williams will just jump back in the starting offensive spot. But as the game progresses, you'll see Corum mix it in more. If they're trailing, I don't think you'll see Corum really at all, and it's going to be the Kyron Williams show.
Gotcha. Yep. I think that could be a case too. This game is full of just offensive options. I mean, we can skip past Puka. Good Lord. Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, Amon-Ra, Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, Sam Laporta. But let's talk about the real hero that's going to be on the field. Number one in my heart, Jameson Williams.
Yep.
Where do you have Jameson Williams as far as your wide receiver ranks? Because I'm very intrigued.
So I have him in as a wide receiver 4, to be honest with you. I have him right in the area of JSN, Ladd McConkey, Adonai Mitchell, Wan'Dale Robinson. I get it. He's been working on his route running. He's looking like more than just a deep ball threat. I need to see it before I start bumping him up into my wide receiver 3 flex areas. But I definitely think, based off of everything we've heard so far this offseason, that it's in the range of possibilities that very likely becomes the case.
I agree. I can't get him into the wide receiver 3. He's just outside. I move him back and forth between, like, I have Darnell Mooney right there with him. And if making the decision between the two, I would probably lean Mooney, but I have to make that decision. In the draft I did in Vegas this week, I have Mooney on the bench right now, and I have Jameson Williams in the starting lineup, and I could flip-flop back and forth. I think I just want to go with the pure upside, which is what I'm going to do. I don't know. I don't have much more to say. It's just, let's watch the game. We have to wait till tonight to do it. But let's talk about the IDP options start with the Rams.
So, up front it's a you know what show. I don't know what we can really make of this situation here. A lot of rookies, Brandon Fisk, just yeah. Avoid.
What about Byron Young? Gary Davenport at the Expo loved Byron Young. I think he sees the pass rush upside in a game that's going to be high scoring and plenty of passing plays. I think he's sack or boom. That's it.
Yes.
I don't see
100%.
And we talked about the linebacker position. Troy Reader should have the green dot for now. Who knows what's going to happen? I don't dislike Christian Roseboom. He wasn't the most efficient tackler in the world, but at the same time, he was like good tackler. He missed his fair share, as you pointed out. Cameron Curl, your old Washington Commander.
Yeah.
Big role of starting safety DB1 for you?
No, not a DB1, probably in the DB3 area. Let me pull him up. Sorry, that's probably easier to do it that way.
No, you can say probably, or because
I have him actually further down my list into the DB3, DB4 area. Somebody I'd rather pay attention to is Cameron Kitchens, who I think could take that job from Curl as the season progresses. For this week, I think Cameron Curl is probably the most confident defensive player I could give you this week.
For the Lions, outside, we talked earlier about Jack Campbell. Aiden Hutchinson goes without saying, but then there's one real position is safety with Brian Branch. Absolute smash play. And then I have one follow-up question. Can Marcus Davenport make anything impact in Detroit?
Marcus Davenport is your Landon Roberts for me.
Yep.
That's all I can say right now.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's not a good thing for those who don't know.
No, it's not. It's not. And with a couple minutes left, let's wrap up with the Monday night game, the New York Jets at the San Francisco 49ers. Dave, Aaron Rodgers, Brock Purdy, one quarterback leagues in this matchup, which has a 43.5 point total. Vegas is thinking it's not going to be a shootout with these two defenses, despite two offenses that are, going to be improved, at least the Jets from last year. Are you starting either one of those in a one quarterback league?
I've seen Aaron Rodgers on the waiver wire in multiple leagues. I think there's doubt. No one knows. I mean, obviously, it was unfortunate after 4 snaps last year he went down. But talking about a 40-year-old dude, right? Does he have the weapons? Absolutely. Is he going to be the same Aaron Rodgers from 2 years ago? I don't know. It's really tough to see. There's a huge wait and see. Garrett Wilson is such a talent that it'd be tough to not perform with that guy. But definitely none of them are slam dunk. They're my QB1s. That's for sure.
Right.
Superflex, are they QB2s? Probably. But, I'm not that confident. I would take Justin Herbert over Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, that's close. I have those really close. I think Herbert's lack of weapons, but his, I don't know, his age in his arm makes me think that he's capable, but still, it's a tricky one. The non-tricky plays, of course, guys, Breece Hall, CMC, Debo, Ayuk, Garrett Wilson. If there's a flex play, number one, also I want to Ricky Pearsall back at practice, was
Right.
out, not throwing the football per se, but was moved up and being part of it. Really good to see. Dude's a badass. Mike Williams, though, that's the flex option of everybody's name right there. We know he's likely the number 2 target with the Jets. We don't know what that will translate to. Will it translate to flex worthy point production, or
He's
is it
just
Mike
never
Williams?
been reliable. That's the one thing that sucks about Mike Williams. He's a talented guy who, if he went for 230 yards and 4 touchdowns, no one would be surprised. But he just is never consistent.
Yep.
That's the trouble with him. It's a buyer beware, enter at your own risk situation with Mike Williams every single time you play him.
All right, Jorge, as we wrap up, we got about 30 seconds. You can obviously talk longer. Let's rip through the IDP side for the Jets.
Okay.
Go for it.
Yeah. Really get Jermaine Johnson having a much easier matchup here, not facing Trent Williams. So love that. Give me Quinnen Williams, CJ Mosley, Quincy Williams, avoiding both cornerbacks and Sauce Gardner and DJ Reed. Safety, Chuck Clark. For the 49ers, Nick Bosa, obviously. Leonard Floyd, he's sack or bust in terms of what I'm thinking there. Fred Warner and Devondre Campbell, I think, are both startable there. At safety, Talanoa Hufanga coming off of the ACL, currently doubtful.
Yeah,
So,
I was going to say that.
So that is obviously not a good thing. And to be honest with you, even if he was ready to go, again, coming off of the ACL so late into the season last year, a little bit of pause there.
Yep. And before we officially sign out and everybody gets to set their lineups and we go on to watch football, Preston has one final question. And David Montgomery or Calvin Ridley in a flex. Preston, is it full point PPR? And I don't know if that changes anybody's opinions or not.
Nope.
Go ahead, guys. I'm intrigued to hear what you guys have to say.
I'm going Ridley.
I'm going Montgomery. So.
I just think it's. I don't know what kind of Montgomery we're getting in Detroit this year. I think they've seen what they have in Jahmyr Gibbs. I think there's been a changing of the guards. Ridley, at least I know, is going to get peppered with at least 7 to 10 targets. Take my chance on Ridley.
The only thing I can think that the reason I would lean Montgomery is if I felt comfortable that Detroit would get up early and be able to rest Gibbs coming off of, the aggravation of the lower body injury that he suffered, and they would just lean heavier on Montgomery. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's going to be a game where it's going to come down to the end and it's going to be split. I think Montgomery's more touchdown dependent. In a full point PPR, I'll go with just the target volume that Ridley will have. But I think it's really close, Preston, myself at least. I don't think it's going to be a huge separation totally. Maybe a 2-point separation between the two players. So it's not something that I'm overly confident one way or the other. But, well, with that, guys, I'm overly confident that we have delivered 3 hours of pertinent information that has covered every game, every player on both offense and IDP. For any first-time listeners or long-time listeners, we want to say thank you very much for staying tuned. I see 187 of you. I'm sure there's more on other platforms. Jorge will say that. Dave, this has become one of my favorite moments of the week, is being able to see you in the morning, despite our conflicting takes on Zeke and Devin Singletary and other players. There's no conflict in our friendship, and I'm glad to see you, Jorge. Great to see you again. Jorge and I saw each other in Vegas, Dave. You know that.
Show me. That's all I say.
I know. So, Jorge, take us out with anything you want to, push for the Fantasy and Frames Network.
Yeah, so for those of you who've been following, and maybe those who don't, we incorporated college fantasy football and fantasy hockey into our content. So tomorrow, look out for our college fantasy football waiver wire article by Justin Taylor. He'll be putting that out. The next day, we have our waiver wire show, followed by Around the Ice, the number 2 rated fantasy hockey podcast on YouTube Music, followed by JT's Stew with JT Brew. where he's going to be covering some college prop bets heading into the weekend. Then obviously we have our college plays and fades. We have all of our articles over at fantasyandframes.com, whether it's plays and fades or waiver articles. And then we have Fantasy and Frames Wednesdays with Dynasty 365, Fourth and Frames to Shoot the Gap. And then we have the Daily Fix on Fridays, your DFS content for DraftKings. And then we're right back here next week doing the Fantasy Football Kickoff show, giving you all the advice you need heading into your Sunday and Monday matchups.
Well, you have about 56 minutes to get your lineups in for the 12 o'clock slate. Obviously, some of the names we had mentioned of the inactives, you might want to get out of your lineup and get better options in. Dave, we'll see you next week. Jorge, I'll see you next week. Good luck, everybody.
Thanks, fellas.